February 6th to order. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll of the council?
Councilman Fogarty,
Councilman Fogarty is home ill, will not be here tonight.
Councilman Lawson,
I am here.
Council Vice President Rigo, Councilwoman Sousa,
Here.
President Rodrick.
Present. Record show, 4 members are present. Please rise for the salute to the flag. Yeah, Mike. Councilman Rigo, go ahead.
Sorry. Mr. President, I move that we go into executive order pertaining to Rhode Island General Law 42-46-5.2.
Second.
Motion by Council VP Rigo to move into executive session, seconded by Councilwoman Souza. So according to Rhode Island law, and to discuss the pending litigation, the Rumford Motor Inn and City Council of East Providence. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. We'll be right back. Good evening again. Is there a motion to reconvene and to seal the minutes of the
So moved.
executive session? Motion by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilwoman Souza. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it, 4-0. This time I would move up on the agenda the report of the executive session. There were no other claims, and I'd ask Attorney Bellamy to just give us a report on the session.
Sure. The council convened into executive session. We discussed the pending litigation with the Rumpke Motor Inn, but no votes, no action.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will, the only thing I would say is there is a hearing, public to know. It's already been reported on, and that will be on March 8th back in Superior Court. And that's all we know at this time. Thank you. Madam Clerk, we're going to resume the regular agenda at this time.
Under consent calendar, we have the council journals, regular council meeting, December 19th, 2023, January 9th, 2024, January 23rd, 2024, and tax abatements for the year 2023 in the amount of $5,676.92.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Souza, seconded by Councilman Lawson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
We have a read-in on a special event license. It's a one-day alcohol class F for St. Francis Xavier Church, the 109th anniversary lunch for February 4th from 1 to 6.
Motion to acknowledge the reading and approve.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Lawson.
Second with
Se-
discussion.
Seconded with discussion by Councilwoman Souza. Councilwoman.
So I know the last meeting we had spoke about the read-ins and how there was going to be a different process taking place, that this was no longer going to be an acceptable license issuance. So we are making an exception since it was the first time that we had discussed it at the last meeting. And this applicant did put the license in just after we had published the docket to the Secretary of State's website. So in good faith, we are approving it tonight. But moving forward, any licensing for any event or any sorts would need to make it in to the clerk's office in a timely manner or will not be approved.
Any other discussion? The motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Next item.
You have the option to bundle the following licenses.
So I'll make a motion to bundle, but can we leave out, was it 5 and 6? So Mr. Hurley can give us a little preview of his upcoming business. So I'll make a motion to bundle licenses 1 through 4 and item 7. So all except 5 and 6.
Motion by Councilman Lawson to bundle items 1 through 4 and also item 7. There a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Souza. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Is there a motion to approve licenses 1 through 4
So moved.
and number 7, moved by
Really happy. that
Councilman
the,
Lawson? Is that a second?
yeah, I'm really happy at
Second.
number 7 that the city clerk is taking over the Easter egg hunt this year.
This is not to be-
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you guys want to talk about that?
Thank you on behalf of everybody in Ward 1. We appreciate that.
Less for you to do.
Yeah.
Well, that was a second by Councilman Rigo. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Would you read the other two next, Madam Clerk? Or the first one that's,
Sure. Item 5 is a victualling for a class 3. The business is McShorey's Market. The applicant is William Hurley, 202 Willett Avenue.
So
Yeah.
I'd like to invite the mayor up of Riverside, Mr. Hurley.
yes, the applicant
I'm
is
sorry, Jill, you
present.
still talk? I apologize if I cut you. So Mr. Hurley is taking over the former
One
Schroeder's.
second, just let him identify his name and address for the record.
Oh, okay.
And Yes.
Good afternoon. Well, good evening. Thank you very much. My name is Bill, and I am a member of the Riverside community, and I am planning on opening up a deli seafood market in Riverside
Address?
at 202 Willard Avenue in the 198 to 220 Plaza.
Can you explain the strange name of the business?
That stands for a short Irish Portuguese person, McShortigy.
Got it.
Cool. We all right with that? Does that pass? Can I get an aye?
Aye.
Has not been voted on yet. We'll let you know. Councilman Lawson.
I was hoping for Riverside Randy's, but, so Bill's taken over a very, famous place in Riverside. And I'm very excited because I don't think there's anybody that loves Riverside more than me, than Bill Hurley. Talking to him about his plans, keeping the history of our beloved Riverside. It's going to be an amazing addition. Willett Pond's getting a lot of attention. There's a lot going on. We got the new mural in that corner. So I am very excited for Mr. Hurley, and I would make the motion that we approve his victualling Class 3 license, not more than 25 people.
That's a motion by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilwoman Souza. And under discussion, anyone else? Bill, good luck. That's a very important part of the city, that curve at Willard Avenue, and it's been empty for a bit. And thank you for stepping forward and bringing a business there. And we're all here to support you, as we are other businesses. Couldn't pick a name like Lucky's, though, or something. Had to be.
Oh, it had to be McShortigy. That's what my father calls me. I'm a McShortigy, so.
Nice.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Aye. Councilman, you want to
I want to
add?
thank you. It was good seeing there last Friday. You weren't there yet, but thank you for allowing me to take the picture and you publicizing it all.
Yes, what, very quickly, what also I'm doing, it's a deli and seafood, but there'll be prepared foods and there'll be a warm station. But I'm working with, I've already met and talked with a few local restaurants, including, a member that's out here, about showcasing their foods and delicacies in my cases to do a lot of cross-marketing. So, and there's also a lot of avors in this city that make amazing clam chowders and things like that, that want to be able to bring that to my market. So one thing that I've been famous for is finding someone else to do my work, bringing the community together to do these ventures. So that's my plan.
Which is great. So my last question is, being half Portuguese, I understand Vavor, but what is an Irish grandmother called?
Nana.
Oh, just Nana.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bob's a good cook too.
That the Italian half of me can cook. I'll stop by and help.
All right.
Thank you. Would you like to add anything else? Good
No,
luck,
just thank you very much for the opportunity, and I look forward to being a member of this community in the business side.
And you mentioned April, you're shooting.
We're looking at in April. This was the final step in the city, and I do have two projects that have to be completed and inspected, and the health department has the paperwork now. So I'm waiting.
How's your experience been with the city opening? a business?
Everything's moved along great, except for the fact I got an email telling me I was supposed to be at 202 Willard Avenue. It says where this meeting is, and it came up saying that it's at 202. So I called Congressman Lawson. I said, am I supposed to be at the deli? And he said, no one's going to your deli tonight. I said, all right. So that was the only confusion that I had. But everything has been very well. The people that I've worked with, right down to the clerk's office, has been very, very helpful.
When you have the opening, maybe Councilman Lawson's band will be there. We'll have a.
This band.
Thank you. Next
Thank you
item,
very
Madam
much. Have a
Clerk.
Great day. Peace.
Yep. I'll make a motion that we approve the Sunday and holidays transfer as well.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Lawson, second by Councilwoman Souza. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have that.
You're all set with us, brother?
Thank you all. Next item.
City Clerk's licensing process and issuance procedure presentation. City Clerk Jill Seppa and Municipal Licensing Clerk Stephanie Mello.
Thank you. Proceed, please. And I believe this was born of discussion from our last council meeting, and so we're going to get some clarifications, et cetera.
You know, one thing I realized when new council sits, we don't do like an in-service on procedure of city various departments and stuff like that. So stuff like this is good for us.
You got it up.
No, I have it. Good, thank you. So there have been a few questions about the licensing process, and so one council member asked me for a copy of the fees, another asked me for the ordinances, so I decided to do a presentation. If you can go to the first slide. Okay. So this is just general licensing information. This is who the Board of Licenses issues licenses for, and there's just a list there. You also got a handout of the whole list of fees and how much each business pays to the city for a fee. If you can go to the next slide. This is just some examples, just to give you an idea of the span of fees. And so all applications are done for the City of East Providence through online, through opengov.com. People can access that through OpenGov directly, or they can go to the city website. The city clerk's office receives the application, certifies them to be complete, and then they're sent along to the approving bodies. So when you ask in meetings if everything is all set with the applicant, the piece that is all set is that they have turned in everything that they needed to and met all the requirements to apply. Then internally, the applications are sent to the qualifying permitters. Those vary from license to license. So it depends on what type of license, who it gets sent to. Some are sent to police, all are sent to fire and building. Some go through various departments in the state and have state requirements.
But we wouldn't get them back when they come to us, I should say. All the check marks have been done from the police, the fire, the Division of Taxation.
No. So they have completed the application when it comes before you, but in the next slide or in 2 slides, I'm going to show you how that actually works in terms of the other permitting bodies and their sign-offs. I also put the language from the ordinance. I thought it was helpful in terms of defining where you stand as a licensing body in the process. So it says it shall be the authority of the city council with approval of the chief and police and the fire department to issue said license. You go to the next slide. So this is an example of what an applicant sees when they go. This is just an example. It happens to be a road race. So you'll see how it's arranged. All the requirements for a road race are listed before they apply. So they can see what all the requirements are, and then they can go in and apply. And then if you could go to the next slide. So this is the flow of the process of the application. They apply online, the clerk's office receives it, zoning reviews everything before it goes forward, and then simultaneously that application goes before the council, the police department, the fire department and the building, depending on the license and what is applicable. In order for the license to go to the next step, all of those need to be approved. So, for instance, if the city council and the police department approve a license, but the fire department says, no, this doesn't pass our inspection, then they will not be issued the license. We did see an example of that 2 meetings ago where you all approved a license because for your standards, they met all the requirements, but the license has not been issued because they have outstanding items with the building department. But so once all 4 of those are signed off, then Miss Mello goes through and she contacts the various state requirements to make sure those are all in place. And once she's signed off on that, they're all different depending on what the license is. Then the applicant can pay the fee for the license and they receive the license. So I think that's been like a little bit unclear in prior meetings. So I just wanted to clear that up. And then in discussing with Miss Mello, just some housekeeping matters, which is another reason why I thought it would be good to just go over this all at once. If legally acceptable, a consideration of adding beauty shops and exercise facilities to the business license list for East Providence. Implementing a fee for block parties of $15 is a recommendation. There's currently no fee. That's just really to cover administrative costs. We currently do not have any type of penalty. And so it's for the council's consideration that when a business is out of compliance, that there be a penalty once they've hit their second or third deadline to help encourage them to come into compliance. Ms. Mello does work very hard at working with businesses. She contacts them 2, 3, 4 times, trying to assist them to come into compliance. And to that note, we were able to get everyone, the 11 outstanding businesses this year that had not renewed on time, into compliance, and they're all renewed. And then there's the topic of the read-ins, which I know you all want to discuss. My suggestion for the read-ins is that in that approving process, that the council president has a sign-off alongside the fire and the chief of police and building, so that as the license comes in, if it comes in after date, but before the next the event is happening before the next meeting, the council president could sign off just like the chief of police and the chief of fire and the building department, and then it would still be read in to the record as a read-in. And then there would be a pertinent ordinance drawn up to support that. So,
Right now, there isn't one, right? We were told there was, but there wasn't one, correct?
yes. And then I did also attach, that's not part of the presentation, the state and local legislation that permits you for each license, and then the full list of fees, just for your information. And again, I do have Ms. Mello here, but we're available for any questions or discussion that you have with us.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I don't know if Ms. Mello, if you want to join at the podium in case there are some questions, or you want to add any comments, discussion?
All right, so this
Counsel.
list you gave us of businesses and how much the license is? Who determines how much the license is?
That's done by ordinance.
All right, because these are all over the place.
Some are set by state law.
Okay.
Some are set by maximum, and then you have an ability to go lower than that, or some have a
Do
minimum.
we have a breakdown of what state and what's local?
Mostly alcoholic beverages license, I think, have a maximum.
Right, but we got like, kennel, palmistry, pawnbroker. Pawnbroker is 225. Pinball, 125. We got to clean this up.
We did.
What's a pinball Sunday? Theaters, we charge $6,000 for a license. Sunday theater, 3,000.
We
I
did
agree.
examine these license fees. Stephanie and I did in June
Mm-hmm.
because we were curious about the alcohol
Yep.
licenses and if there was any ability to change those. And I did pull, I didn't do this for tonight, but I did pull 3 comparable cities as far as population. And our license fees were mostly in line with the other cities. But they are,
To me, a business is a business. Why are there different? One's $40, one's $25, one's $10, one's $1,500.
is that within their purview to change or create
right,
more
so-
Depends what the
uniformity?
license is.
Can we get a list of which licenses are required by state and which are required by city ordinance? Maybe.
All licenses on this list, I believe, as we just learned with the hotel license, have to be authorized by state law. And if they're not authorized by state law, then we don't have the ability to issue them. So I would imagine that each one of these licenses that is listed on here, there's a concomitant state law that allows the city and town to.
So this list is all state law and state sets the fees.
Either the state sets the fee, or they let the council set the fee, or they set a minimum fee or maximum fee. So it's all over the map. Not every,
So this Sunday and holidays license,
that's state law.
that's ridiculous. We haven't had blue laws for how long now?
True.
All right.
So what you're asking for is that we get the list from the state, either the clerk's office or the solicitor, which I would say, working together, that they get us the list of what is mandated. If it's $50, $100, I think that's where we got to go. So I think at our next council meeting, we should have that list so that we can see what is up to our discretion.
I mean, this is why you get frustrated business owners. I mean, these are all over the place. Gun dealer. Tattoo parlor, $200. Scrap metal, $30. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm just talking out loud now.
But it's interesting that clerk says we are in line with much of the state, so,
If the state sets it, we would be.
right, well, yeah, so it's beyond
I want to know what
we can do.
how to look at, and if need be, make adjustments to.
What I said. So at the next meeting, in 2 weeks, I think between the solicitor's office and the clerk's office, that this isn't really heavy lifting, that there should be, since it's listed under state law, that they should be able to pick this up. So to Councilman Lawson's questions, that we should be able to see what we can navigate around.
Also, let me be very clear. You guys are awesome. Us asking these questions is about the silly things like Sunday and holidays. So please tell your staff, Jill, you guys are phenomenal. Us asking these questions has nothing to do with what we see, the awesome stuff coming out.
Thank you.
The application process, who set this? And is it possible, I would feel more comfortable voting, knowing everything's signed off? And how do we know that a license that we voted to approve ended up not getting submitted or given? So this application process, is that just an internal process or is that something by ordinance?
No, it is past practice of when I started.
Okay,
Just the mic.
okay.
There can be a few tweaks to it. However, it's usually police, fire, and council work as one. Sometimes it takes building a little bit longer to get in and approve it versus them coming to council and you guys knowing what's going on prior to them going out and inspecting, because They could be doing some remodeling and it takes a little bit longer and we're just trying to get the ball rolling for the business owners so they're not waiting.
So did we just approve a license last week for somebody who has outstanding building violations? The CBD Cafe, do they have outstanding building violations? And we were told they're in good standing and we gave them a license. Okay. Again, this is what we're trying to just flesh out. the
One at a
process.
time, please.
That
you.
business
Question.
has not been approved for all the levels and they have not been issued a license.
So can we change? I don't want to vote on a license that situation, Okay.
And when I, again, to reiterate, when you ask me if the business has met all the requirements, I answer yes, because they've done everything they need to do to apply. In that particular business, I did check with the police department that there were no outstanding infractions or prior infractions. But again, they won't get their license unless everything is passed. And so for the ease of the business owner, it's set up this way in terms of all those actions are simultaneously happening at once. So the ideal situation is that all 4 groups sign off within the same week, and then the
Not we, the
business.
final sign off?
It's
Not
simultaneous.
necessarily, and it might be subject to. Like in that case you mentioned, they did not get a license. So we approve the group as, police, fire, whatever, but I don't think we want, and I'm with you, what you're saying, but I don't think we want to stifle a business from getting started as the clerks have said. Well, if we don't let them do anything until every little thing, sometimes you can start, and then maybe they're not open yet for business, but they're in, like McShorty's Market. He's not open yet for business, but he's in there building floors and doing things and cleaning stuff. And he has a permit. And as I think we were just told that the business you talked about does not yet have that license. Can you clarify that more?
So, thank you. So
So when we vote to approve, what is
you vote to approve subject to meeting all
Subject
legal
to.
requirements. So that, like, for instance, I take McSure's, whatever it's called, I didn't want to. So tonight you approved the license subject to meeting all requirements. That would include a sign off from the Department of Health, a CEO from the city. They may not have that yet. The clerk does not issue the license until they're satisfied that all those things are checked off. If you want to wait, if that's your choice, that could hold up the process, because I think in some cases, the state requires the city to grant the license before they will grant their license. So sometimes there's a lag that way. In other words, the state will wait for the city to say this is okay, and then the state will issue the license. And so they're not meeting all legal requirements until all that is bundled. So it's kind of a moving target. Ever since I've been here, this has always been done this way, in that it's subject to meeting all. It's implied that when you grant a license, it's subject to meeting all legal requirements. And like the other thing that happened at that, what was the place called? CBD place. There was the building official didn't sign off on it, so that license was never issued, even though you granted it. It's granted subject to meeting all the.
Subject to.
So that license was not issued by the clerk's office until they get that CO.
So I got a question for the solicitor, because a legal standpoint, we got two great people up here, as Rick just said tonight. But the whole office, but in theory, we could be could be another council, and this is a hypothetical. You could have a bad apple in city government, and that license can get could get through. Basically, actually issued. If in that, say they were bad clerks, right? In theory, that license could get issued because we did everything, and there was something behind the scenes happened. That license could get issued. You're not knowing, right?
I guess theoretically that could happen, yeah.
That's what, yeah. So I mean, I think that's what we're trying to cut down on anything.
And how long does our yes vote last?
Yeah.
So we voted yes, but they got outstanding things. How long do they have?
So they get the approval.
So it could take a year.
But yeah.
So,
Usually, yeah.
so it's till the next licensing period, so they got a whole year in theory is what you're saying? I mean, Mike or Stephanie, it would be a year?
They have a year to comply, and if they don't comply within that year, then that one expires out and they have to apply for a new one and go before council again.
I think that to address one of your concerns, there could be a report out that if a license is pending once you approve it and did not get issued, that could be a report that's submitted to the council so that you are kept in the loop about what is going on with the licenses, if that would address that particular issue.
I think some concern is that potentially a business could operate without a license underneath the nose of the city while it's getting the rest of its stuff in order. So while it's waiting to potentially be operating without the city knowing that it's operating. I think that's probably a concern that we might have seen.
I think that's always a concern, though. It's sort of unrelated to the licensing process, is that somebody could sign a lease and open their doors and start selling something without applying to anybody. And so then it comes to enforcement.
Or if they think that the city council has approved their license, it kind of gives them a green light to keep going. Even though they have other pending things that might be outstanding with the health department or the fire. They may feel as though that because they've been not necessarily physically issued the license, because we know they have to meet those steps, but because in their minds, they have a license pending that they could probably start doing whatever business they have. Though they legally.
But Stephanie, you're pretty clear to the businesses that they are, it's subject to, that they have to, they don't, there's no ambiguity when they leave your office. Now, they might do something illegally where it's always a risk, but I'm sure that when they leave your office, they understand.
They do. I go over each step with them and they can actually visually see it on the OpenGov portal where they can see which step is in progress and if it's fire, building, council, police, who's yet to go out and inspect and approve it. Until all of those requirements are met, there's no license doesn't even show. We can't even see that until I complete it out.
Let me ask this off the top of your head, either of you. Are you aware of a lot of instances where a business may go forward and not comply? Are we talking several? Are we talking many? Is it worthwhile that we get an update after we vote to issue licenses at our level, that if you see businesses are not complying within a while, could you give us a report back?
Absolutely. We could look into it. And, a lot of the times businesses that don't even make it to council. They stop right at zoning. And so it doesn't even come before the council
Right.
to even vote because they're not in compliance of where they're looking to have their business within the city. I can say probably in the last 5 years, not even a handful of people or businesses that have gone before council have been opened up.
Thank you. Councilman, you wanted to add something, I think. Did you get it out? Okay.
All right.
I've covered it.
Okay. Anything else?
So as far as discussion requests, I am, if the council approve, I'm all in on the penalty for noncompliance. And if you guys agree, we can ask Mike and Jill to work on an ordinance maybe of appropriate penalties for noncompliance. You guys would know better what is good for that. If you guys are in agreement that noncompliance, there should be some kind of stick.
Are there any cities and towns in your research, Madam Clerk, that have
Okay.
fees for non-compliance?
Yes.
And what's that range? Stephanie?
It really
Please.
depends on days. So if they're 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, we have people that are 4 to 5, 6 months in our city. that
Okay.
we have to chase down, that are operating half a year, not complying with the city. That's our biggest issue, is we approve them, but sometimes they don't go before council again. So Like, we're chasing them for the money. We're chasing them to get licensed. We're chasing them to be in compliance when we shouldn't have to.
Right, and that's kind of speaks to my point that I was trying to make, where people, they were issued a license once, but then they fall in the loophole of not keeping up with, and then they have these, they're operating or have been operating.
Right. And I had actually, unrelated to this whole issue, I had actually sent the council a report 2 months ago on who was outstanding on their renewals, the tiers they were at, just so that you were in the loop about that. And there, as of 2 weeks ago, there were 11, and then it was down to 4 through Miss Mello's efforts. And then the solicitor got involved and helped helped
Enforcement.
assist the last 3 businesses to come into compliance. So everybody right now is in compliance.
Called in the bill collector, he put the heavy hand down.
Twisted.
You guys work together, Mike, and craft something? Okay.
So I would leave with this comment from me, before as anyone else has anything to add. I don't want anyone in the business community to take this as any kind of an effort to not be business friendly. Based on what our clerks have told us, maybe they can count on one hand over the past couple of years where there have been out of compliant problems. You know, there's always someone who doesn't quite have enough money, can't get something done, and they don't go into business. So everything I'm hearing from businesses, new businesses, from the city clerk's office is that we are being fairly business friendly in the city. We've seen a lot of new businesses open. And I hope, and I know we all want that to continue. We just want to keep the public safe from any business that shouldn't be open because of some health problems, health department regulations that aren't followed. So we're going to continue to be business friendly. What we do is subject to the professionals here in the city following through and making sure that things get done. And so coming from tonight, I don't think we have to vote on this, but I would just ask the clerk's office to periodically send the council a report. Doesn't have to be every week, every month, just periodically. If you notice 2 or 3 or 4 businesses that we have granted licenses to, subject to all of the other provisions, just give us a list so we have some follow-up. And is that easy enough to do? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Quarterly report.
And I would also,
Yeah, quarterly's fine.
and I would also comment that this isn't meant to impugn businesses. Like you
Right.
said, this actually creates a level playing field for all businesses, holding them to the same standards across the board. So it's actually good for a good, healthy business environment.
It is, 99% of the people following the rules, that 1% that are not following the rules shouldn't,
Yep.
follow the same rules. And I want to thank you both for this report and the reports that you provided to us. As Councilman Lawson said, we would have loved to have seen this last year, being a new council, being 3 of us, being new to the body. And I don't think you ever got a report on who was bad or, the good or the bad list before from any other city clerk. So I want to commend both of you for the efforts here.
So under their request, so we're going to get the ordinance for the noncompliance. Do we need a resolution that Vice President or President can do the sign off the council internal? Does that need? And as far as the first 2, the beauty shop, exercise and block, I'd like to see the list of the city first, and then we could discuss adding these. I'm surprised that beauty shops are not part of the already list.
Yeah, so I'm, go ahead, sorry, let me try to interrupt.
Oh, that's it. I just didn't know. So for the 4th request, consideration of council internal sign off, so we don't have to do the reading thing. Is that something is that council rules we need a resolution on, or?
So if I understand the clerk's request is she would like the council president to sign off on licenses, like the 1-day licenses, is that what it is?
Yeah, the reading stuff.
1 day, yeah, just the 1 day, just the 1 day. I think we should probably pass an ordinance to give him that power.
For the president and vice, we good with that?
Alternate, yeah.
Right, designee or, absolutely.
But he sold his boat.
Okay.
Send an email from the boat.
So the second two, definitely we could take care of the request. And the first two, I'd like to get some more information.
And we'll get an ordinance to do that. And if I'm in the seat that has to do that, one day sign off, I wouldn't do it, of course, without letting the rest of the council know about it. But, and we don't want to stop the business. so-
No, they're all innocuous too.
Right.
They're like feast and stuff like that.
And I still think discussion down the line, I'd like to see us ease up on, a church at the last minute, because of some reason, is having a ham and bean supper. No alcohol involved, no other licenses.
Why do they need a list?
Why do they need a license? If our own city library has a guest reader who just happens to come into town and they can put a program on for the kids in the library, but can't do it because the council's not meeting this week. And, let's have a little discretion and some common sense, but let's not belabor it. We'll work on all this.
Can we pass an ordinance where if it's non-alcohol, like he just, his ham and bean dinners that he goes to regularly and everything, can we just say you don't need a license? Do we need to pass something
I
or?
think the license is more also too of a notification to the public.
Yeah.
that There's an event going on, so people are aware of it. I don't think it's necessarily for us to stop them.
Oh, yeah, I was just about the alcohol. If it's non-alcohol,
Because it is a public notice. A lot of people-
Right. All right. We'll continue to work on all these details. Thank you very much. Ms.
Thank
Mello,
you.
thank you for coming tonight. Madam Clerk, you can resume the agenda.
Jill, let us sleep in tomorrow.
Under communications, William Lewis to speak on water sewer bill. There we go.
Mr. Lewis, you have the podium.
Hey, buddy.
I know you well. I've been here quite a few times.
I've been here quite a few times. I think you're the only original one. I'm asking to have the adjustment done where I don't have to pay for every gallon of water coming in, going out. I think we all understand at a restaurant, we get water. Every table gets water. Unfortunately, that's how it goes now. I can't charge for it, but I have to pay for it coming in and going out. So what I was thinking, instead of you guys taking under advisement again, can we put a deduct meter on my bar spigot for water and my soda guns?
So I'm pretty sure the city will say that's your financial responsibility.
Oh, no. I'll pay for it.
Yeah. You don't need our permission for that.
You just called.
That's inside water.
Right, because you're trying to
Because
differentiate.
right now, it's
from
only
sewer.
allowed for outdoor water.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we would, yeah.
I
So
thought that the deduct meter was at the water connector. So
Yeah,
they-
one of them, they change it.
Right,
What they do is they take it for the outside, they separate it.
right. So anything going,
Inside, you can't have a deduct meter on. Anything going outside, you can.
Who told you you can't?
because you're using.
That's the law.
that's the law. It's only-
Is it state?
it's only for sprinkle- No, it's a city.
That's city
ordinance.
ordinance.
City ordinance. It's for people. It was originally passed
Correct.
moons ago because of sprinklers and people started complaining about their lawn. So the deduct only works for outside. It doesn't work for inside.
Correct.
But you bring up a good point, Bill, and obviously we've known each other and just for the record, so.
I'm not looking to
No.
get anything for nothing. I'm just looking to save a couple
I'm just
bucks.
saying that for
Well,
the record.
Every dime matters
Just saying
now.
For the record, that, we know each other and I just want to be transparent, everybody. But we talk about working with our business partners and business community and everything that's going on in the city over the, since the bridge closure. He brings up a good point that we should look for it for restaurants only. I know it could, again, Mike might have to help us on this. It could be, a scenario where other businesses might speak same thing, but I think with restaurants,
I mean, I
it's
put
a
a,
very
I put a water
valuable
spigot
thing. I mean, you
just for cable services. I've already done all that work and tried to do it the right way, so I can eventually come to this point and ask for that deduct meter.
I was pushing for a flat sewer rate.
So isn't the
That would be
difference,
one of the
That would be
biggest-
ideal,
The
but
That's the
difference here-
solution, but nobody in the administration, they want to talk.
no, this has been going on
Yeah.
6 years.
the difference here is we're talking usage, which you and us, we all understand everyone has to pay for water we use. And then the sewer use fee,
That's
that's the differentiation.
correct.
And that's what we try to deal with the deduct meters. So I don't know why a deduct meter couldn't somewhere in the system be put that allows you to pay for your water that you're using. But later, when you empty all those glasses in the sink, because people don't drink all the water in the restaurants, it goes into the sewer. So now you're paying the sewer use also. That's what you really want to eliminate, correct?
I want to eliminate the sewer use that
Right.
with the product that doesn't go down the sewer.
You drink 5 glasses of water, he's paying for it. That's
Because right now, people that drink it, they drink it.
Yeah, but it's not going in the sewer. That's what, the
Right. So if it's not going in the sewer, you're not paying the sewer use fee.
Oh, yes, I am.
Because as soon as you open the faucet, you're getting charged that sewer fee.
We don't have a flat rate.
We don't have a
based
flat
on
rate.
water
So we have to differentiate.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's why he's asking for the
Uh,
deduct meter.
Yeah, I don't have the answer tonight.
So, at a minimum, we need a law that allows interior deductibles. Okay.
Do we not have it for homeowners? I feel as though there was a homeowner who put one in their home, a deductible.
It's only for external. It's only for
Correct.
sprinklers.
All good ideas.
Mike?
I'm not an expert in water. This is something we'd have to bring up with the water department. Jim.
We did.
I don't know what the rule is. There might be state laws on this. I don't know. The theory is, I get the theory of restaurants. What about so the homeowner? If the kids are drinking water.
My gardens, that don't go in the sewer.
Well, the gardens, you can get a deduct meter because it's outside. use.
Why should I have to buy a deduct?
No, if
Because
you're going to
it's just-
refer to the homeowner, if the kid is drinking water, eventually that water is going down that homeowner's sewer.
I guess you
Unless
You
that,
could say that for the
could say that for
restaurants.
every- you could say that for restaurants too, I guess.
no, you really can't.
But I don't know the answer. There might be rules and regulations about this. I have no idea.
I think we'd have to inquire with water department.
So at a minimum though, can we look into a law that says?
Yeah, but I thought
deductibles-
didn't we already go over this with, what was his name, Steve before? On the sewer? I mean,
Steve Kudo, also
This is
Mr.
literally
Marvel.
this is literally, I think, the 4th council,
Yeah.
So
at least the 3rd.
we just adjusted the rates for the first time in 8 years or something like that. And one of the conversations, can we go with a flat sewer rate?
I mean, my water bill right now is on the average $1,000 a month.
Oh, it's outrageous. I agree.
I mean, between that, the electric, the gas, I mean, we work with a profit margin of about 2%. It's going down to nothing. I mean, it's getting to the point where we're not going to be making money, so we're just not going to stay open. And I mean, I'm not being like lying about that. It's just facts. And this isn't just me. This is a lot of restaurants. So if we can save $100 a month, that's a lot.
Mike, what about the claims process? People that come in and how could that work into this?
Not necessarily because he's using the water, right? He's getting the water in. right?
Yeah.
He's trying to prevent. I think the basic premise is if you're using water, eventually it's going to go to your sewer, right? Except unless it's using outside, because you can monitor the water that's going outside your building. You can put a deduct meter on it. The issue is if you have a restaurant, you're filling water glasses, making sodas, right? You must have a mixing
Yep.
soda thing, all being mixed as part of the product. And I don't know how, there's probably a study that's how much percentage actually goes to the sewer. I don't know if it's 100% or 60%, but we don't know. I don't know what rules,
I
water,
think
water,
Steve came up with
I'm sorry.
40%.
Water is very highly regulated by the Department of Health and these meters and whatnot. So I don't want to say that we can do it or not do it. I speak to Jim Marvel and see what the problem is. But to solve the problem is the flat fee, probably. Not to solve the problem, but to get rid of this discrepancy would be a flat fee. But, you know, you have the authority to, when you want to.
We'll bring it up again. But I just want to see the numbers. I can't even get the numbers of what the flat fee would be. So, okay.
So I know you've been here before, but I think you understand this body tonight couldn't fix this. But we can right away bring in the water.
Well, the
How long do you
request,
think it would take this time?
the request is you want an interior deduct meter.
Well, I'd like the deduct meter, a flat fee.
Well,
Maybe instead of paying two times the water consumption, you know, maybe just 1 for 1 gallon for 1 gallon. You know, I mean, it's just, it's a lot of money to be
I guess.
Yeah,
not
some,
What makes
using
it tough
service.
for our water is we use the enterprise. So
Yep.
the whole funds is what we get from water and sewer bills. We borrowed $50 million.
Nope, I'm
to renovate
fully
that.
aware of
And that's part of the
situation.
reason why East Providence has higher water bills. But I agree with the flat sewer rate and interior deduct meters.
I mean, as it is, as a business, we already pay extra.
Mm-hmm.
We already pay a $300 extra fee, which to this day, nobody's told me what it's for.
I just did some quick research right here, and 4 cents per gallon you're throwing down the drain. I just went to some restaurant sites and everything. So
what is this $300 fee that you pay as a business?
I don't even know what it is. It's just,
You get a separate bill?
oh yeah, I should be getting it very shortly.
you got
Usually comes in
oh, the litter.
yeah, no, that's not the litter. That's
The litter.
that's for the SUAS. They send that, yeah. That's for us to be able to use the sewer as a commercial entity.
Well, they started that 2 years ago. They started that 2 years ago. It was before I got on the council. Because, you know, obviously being in the industry,
Yep.
directly, a lot of restaurants and liquor stores in the city were very upset about the fee. I mean,
Another sin tax.
Is that an annual fee?
Yeah, we get it every year.
That from the state?
No, that's from East Providence.
it's through, it's not directly through the city. It's, yeah.
Well, we can at least try to
Correct.
get an explanation on
Yeah,
on
I
that.
mean, nobody's really giving me an explanation. I've gone down the SUAS
Yeah,
down the point there or whatever,
the plant, yeah.
and they didn't even know what it was.
Because Marco was very upset at Jordan's that day. He had just remodeled the store and he was, you know,
Yeah,
That's in the Suez contract?
Yeah, must be part of their operating costs, but
when
Is-
do you think we could get this at least looked at?
well, I'll commit that we'll at least put this on our very next agenda. Again, we'll ask the water superintendent to come in. And, you know, he's the day-to-day person who would have more answers. We'll ask the water department to, we'll start tomorrow by asking the water department to prepare a response
I appreciate it.
for our very next meeting. And they may not come in with every answer, but we'll get them in and start the ball rolling. So I'll make sure,
Could we
Tomorrow
also
morning.
have an ordinance, a resolution allowing the indoor deduct meter?
well, that might be part of the discussion. Why don't we just wait and see what the
That's low hanging fruit. Why make them wait?
reasons are?
'Cause that's going to be 2 weeks and then it'd be another 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't know what it entails.
It may not be legal. That's why I want to make sure that we have.
Right. Well, if it is legal.
When I say
So-
legal, regulatory, possible, I don't know. So
Okay.
I think getting Jim in here would, was kind of.
Do that first and
Okay.
then,
can,
so I'll make sure tomorrow morning,
But I would like to do it quicker for the gentleman.
yeah, well, our next meeting,
so our next meeting is 2 weeks from today. So,
we'll ask the water department to prepare a report.
so if he's here on the 20th, we're going to ask them to come here on the 20th, and he answers the questions right or any which way. Then the legal department, Mike can prepare for our first meeting, whatever the date is in March 4th. then we should be able to do what you're talking about. So. we
You
should
need a
have
place to
this
take a
wrapped up
study
by-
for it. They can
We,
use
we
my
will
drawing.
go a step at a time. We start by next meeting. Director Rezendi, I'll get in touch with you in the morning and maybe you could contact the water department, Mr. Marvel, and also Suez. I know they're a separate entity, but no, it's okay. Right, but I mean, as far as like this other $300 fee, that maybe Suez doesn't have to come in, but we could get an explanation of the history of that. And we'll talk tomorrow. We'll do as much as we can as soon as we can.
That's all I can ask.
Yep, thanks for your time. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Next item, please.
Under public comment, Anthony Peru, speaking on a license transfer.
Is Anthony present? Is it Peru, did you say? Not present? Okay, next.
Julie Garrett.
Yes, please. Name and address for the record.
Hi, everybody. My name is Julie Garrett, and my address is 2550 Horde Street, Madison, Wisconsin, 53704. I'm here tonight to give you an update on the disaster loan program for the bridge declaration and also for the flooding, severe storms, and tornado declaration from September. I know your city has done an amazing job of getting that information out to the community for the bridge. I just want to remind people that there is also a flooding declaration in Wisconsin at this time, and it's for the September 10th to 13th flood. Oh, did I? Oh, gosh, I'm sorry. I'm getting tired, guys. It's late. No, I'm sorry. For Providence County here in Rhode Island. That declaration has physical disaster loans for flooding. You know, the bridge is just economic injury disaster loans. And the information is available at our website, sba.gov/disaster. And I'm not going to talk about that much because I can tell the bridge declaration is more important to you. So I went by the Business Recovery Center here today and got the latest figures of how many people have been coming in. I'm really glad the mayor moved this center here from the Weaver Library because we're still seeing about 35 people a week coming in to get assistance. So I'm glad there's a place they can come and work one-on-one with our people. And by that, I mean they can work on their application if it got withdrawn because they didn't have enough documentation, or if their application was declined, they can get help, or if they're just starting out and they're just putting in an application. And the hours for that are 8 to 4, Monday through Friday, or Monday through Thursday, and 8 to 1 on Friday. And the deadline to apply is not till September 16th. So there's still lots of time. A lot of times with an economic injury disaster loan, people will wait till the first quarter after the event so that they can really get a feel for how it's impacting their bottom line. The other thing I wanted to say is if somebody's applied and they think, oh, that's not going to be enough money, or what if they replace the bridge and this goes on a long time, you can apply for a modification of your loan for up to 2 years, and there's no limit to how many times you can do that. So if you can demonstrate that your economic injury is continuing, you can talk to your loan officer and ask for additional funding. So let's see, just a second. Here we go. So from East Providence, there have been 80 applications received, Rumford 12, and Riverside 20. So that's a total of 112 applications. Altogether, we've gotten 750. 186 people have been helped here at the Business Recovery Center. And that doesn't mean they're all applications. It could be people coming in who have questions.
All right, could you go back and repeat? I lost some of that. When you
Okay.
go back to when you said there were 80,
Yes.
is that 80 total?
80
in East Providence?
applications from 02914. From
Okay, so that's East Providence Central, right?
Yes, and that was as of last Thursday at 2:00 because we pull the zip code report once a week. It's pulled on
Okay.
Fridays. Rumford 12, and Riverside 20. And I'm doing that by zip code.
Okay,
So that's a total of 112.
thank you.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
These were applications or did they actually get a
Those are the
loan?
applications.
Okay,
Yeah, so you've received 5 applications for flooding from 02914, so from East Providence, and 2 from Rumford, and none from Riverside so far. So I have 3 minutes to talk to you.
No,
No,
that's
you can-
fine.
you
You,
can continue,
the
please.
flooding, was that for September or is that for the November storm as well?
So that is for the September 10th to the 13th storm. Right now, Rhode Island EMA is collecting damage assessments, and they're going to look at how many people were affected in December and January, and then decide whether to put that forward and request more disaster declarations. And they're saying that it's very important for communities to give them their damage list so that they know, how many people were affected.
Because my ward got really hit hard in the November time is moving November, December, we had storms. So I've had quite a
Yeah.
few people reach out to me.
I understand. I do have a brochure that the state gave me that says how people can put their damage reports in, and I can email that to you. I have it in multiple languages too, so I can send that to you tomorrow. I can't really speak for the state, but they told me it's okay to talk about needing those reports to come in. Let's see if there's anything else here. Oh, I wanted to say that when people put in their application, they have to prove their economic stuff for their business. And a lot of people don't have their tax return yet for 2023. So they can put in like a monthly profit and loss statement for last year, different things, right? So SBA might contact somebody and say, hey, we need more information. And then they give you like a week to put that in or some kind of time period. And if you don't do it, they withdraw your application because they have to keep working on the ones that are ready to be processed. So I really encourage people to check my SBA portal and just check the status of their loan and see if it's still in good standing or of their application, and to see if it's still in good standing or if they need to supply more information. And once again, we have people here with lots of experience who can help businesses, and we're really doing that. We really want to help people get these loans. So please take advantage of having someone here in your community in person right now. So.
Through the chair. Ms. Grant,
Councilwoman, please.
a couple of questions. So one, do we have a number of how many out of the 112 have been approved for a loan?
Yep, I have that. Just a minute. Let me look on here. Unfortunately, it's going to sound pretty low. So just a second. Let me look. So for East Providence, it's only been 2 so far. And this was again as of last Thursday at 2. There might be more now. 02915, which is Riverside. Let me see. None for that so far. And none for Rumford. But I really think there's going to be some soon. It just takes a while because people start their application, but then, like I said, they fall out because they don't keep going with the paperwork. So that's why I'm here to talk to you, to try to get you to encourage people to check and to do that.
What
So-
is the, I'm sorry.
So one of the things in talking with businesses in the East Providence, the 02914 area, is that they have, all of them almost, have put in the application, not necessarily needing the loan because they don't feel like the loan is really the way that it's going to help them. They're not looking to have more debt. They may already
Yes.
have an SBA loan already to have started their business. So they already have those things, and it's difficult for them to quantify what the losses are or what potentially foresight of losses given the consistent changes that we're having with the traffic and the uncertainty of the bridge. So getting that data and then supplying it to the portal to give a number has been really difficult and challenging for them. We're still at a loss daily. So other things that they were asking about that that could be a consideration is for those who already have loans, it would be more beneficial to maybe have a grace period of paying the loan or potentially waiving interest fees on existing loans so that that money saved can help compensate for losses that they're having on a daily basis. Are those things, or reducing the interest rate that they're currently set at, are any of those considerations that that the SBA has thought about or can potentially think about in terms of providing support? Because really they're looking for grant. They're looking for some type of monies to help get them back on their feet, given they just, for a lot of businesses in the city, they've just started within the last year. So everybody knows that at the beginning of a new business, your first 5 years is a struggle, right? You have a lot of stuff that you're paying for, your build outs, getting the customers to come in. So now with this, we have a lot of businesses that are at a crossroads to even continue with their business, which would be detrimental not only to their financial livelihood, their family, but also to our community, because that would be another storefront potentially that would be closed in our city. And with the uncertainty of what's going on with this closure and our traffic patterns changing that are really diverting people away from businesses in the city, it has huge economic impact, not only for those businesses, but as a city as a whole.
Yes, I totally understand your concern, and I've thought about this a lot too. We don't do grants. SBA just doesn't do grants. But what people can do is if they have an existing SBA loan, any type of SBA loan, including another disaster loan or a regular business loan, they can, in writing, request a deferment on their loan or talk to them about potentially reducing their payments while they're going through this period. It has to be in writing, and they have to show justification for the request. So they need to explain that the bridge is out and they're they're losing money.
How
they do
liberal
it.
or taxing is that process? Because if you're saying that 112 applicants have applied, but you've only acknowledged 2 have been approved, it's a slow moving process. So
Yeah.
I'd like to give the businesses in our community some reassurance that there is diligence and urgency in their needs. And how long would the deferment be? Is it a 6-month deferment? Is it a year deferment? Are there specifics on that, or is it a case by case depending on the amount of the loan?
So I work for the Disaster Recovery and Resilience Office. I don't know because I don't work for the people who do the deferments.
Yeah.
What I can do is go back after this meeting and try to get you information and email it to all of you. And I understand the sense of urgency that you have. And I also wish the loan totals were better. I don't really understand why they are the way they are. I'm hoping that they're going to improve soon. The biggest thing I can say is I don't think it's super hard to apply for those loans. I just think that people aren't paying attention maybe to the portal. And it's like, we're missing this information. We're going to put your loan on a shelf right now and go to the ones that have all the information. And so you need to put your loan back into the flow with the information. You have to just keep it in the flow. And I think people aren't understanding that.
So one other thing, just because you spoke to disaster relief funding, what a piece of this that I think have gotten lost too are those who are residents who are going through struggles. I've had at least a handful over the last 2 weeks who can't pay rent because they can't get to their job, and their job no longer really exists. They don't have a job for them because they can't meet between childcare and getting to their place of employment. Now they're in a position where they're unemployed and they're having financial struggles. Is there relief for residents who are experiencing financial struggles due to the commute or lack of to navigate that, because we can't drop our kids off at school at 7 a.m. The schools aren't open. They have to get to work for 8 a.m.
Yeah, I hear you. I understand that this is having ripple effects. So the declaration that you have for the bridge is what we call an idle-only declaration. This type of declaration is only economic injury disaster loans for small businesses and nonprofit organizations that are seeing economic losses. There is not anything for homeowners or renters with this type of declaration, unfortunately.
Yeah. I didn't think so, but I did want to put it out there because I think this is a big piece that leadership in the state is not considering, or if they are thinking about it, they're not talking about it. And it needs to be discussed publicly and transparently because to your point, there is a huge ripple effect that is devastating people's lives on a large scale. And, you know, it's heartbreaking to get the calls from these people who are now 2 months, 3 months behind on their rent in the winter, wondering what they're going to do. And they're being told maybe a shelter is your only option. I mean, that's not a good response from any agency or leadership.
Yes.
So, you know, I'd like the mayor and the governor and all those people down at the State House to really be thinking about that because this is bigger than just businesses and commuting. This is really seriously affecting hundreds of people in the city and neighboring cities.
Yes.
Right. Councilman Rigo?
Thank you, Mr. President. When former director Mark Haywood was here, I think he mentioned that it was a year of interest-free.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Also,
so I
no
just-
payments for
yeah.
a year.
So I wanted to clarify, make sure that was on the record or clarify that. What is, you keep on talking about going through the application process and maybe hitting a portal and some item and people fall out. So people know what is the process and how long from start to end that they get an answer to how long will this process take normally?
Normally, once they have all their materials in and their application is complete, it takes 21 business days to have a decision.
Okay. And my next question is, in past history, obviously every disaster is different from the next disaster, but what is the rate of success? Is it 90% of the people who apply or businesses apply get relief from the SBA? Is it 60% or what is the normal rate?
I don't even have that because it really varies on the disaster, where it is in the country, the circumstances. I would say there's no average. I'm sorry, I really don't have that information for you, and I'm never given that information.
The most important thing, obviously, is the days. And are they notified that, you know, again, we're talking about small business owners that are trying to survive in this economic crisis that we're in. It's an economic crisis in the city. Forget about the bridge. It's an economic crisis for a lot of these small businesses. Are they notified regularly that, hey, you've done part one, we need part two? Is there one reminder, 2 reminders, no reminders?
I don't want to give you information I'm not totally sure of. I don't know how many reminders they get. I will have to find that out and give that to you. I would not want to misspeak and give you information I'm not sure of. And I've got to keep a list of all your questions. I don't want to forget anything. But yeah, I'm not sure on that.
Because I think that's important when you get somebody who's running a pizza place and
They're
we all-
super busy.
Yeah, I mean, we've all tried, you know, thanks to my colleague to the right here who came up with the great idea right after the bridge, and other people tried to mimic it, but we showcased a lot of businesses. We went out, and thank God I spent a couple extra days at the gym because he was trying to make me gain weight. We were visiting like every restaurant, bakery, everybody in the city of East Providence, and these people are just trying to survive. So they're working 16 hours a day, some of them, and then they got to get in front of a laptop to remind them. And, you know, sometimes out of sight, out of mind, and they forget and everything.
Yeah, and it's easy to miss an email come in. I understand that. Yeah.
I know there are discussions about the bridge later, so are there any other questions for SBA emergency program. It's being run right here in City Hall this time. Thank you so much for coming in. And my only question is, what took you longer, to come here from Wisconsin or to cross the bridge?
Tonight it was pretty fast, only I think
Okay.
15 minutes. So
Thanks again
so
for
much.
coming. Did Director Rezende, do you want to add to this? We may have raised some questions for you.
Thank you, Council President. No, I just wanted to piggyback what Julie said, only to answer the Council Vice President's question about flooding. So we are preparing documentation for Rhode Island EMA in terms specifically of the flooding. So Council Vice President, if you have constituents, residents who brought to your attention that they've had some flooded areas, please give me that information before Friday, because we need to present that to EMA. Because as Julie mentioned, if they do get enough of a list, the EMA will bring that forward to try to get some relief.
Great. Thank you
Thank you.
for the follow-up. Okay, next item, please.
I just wanted to let you know that Ms. Garrett is also on the docket for the next meeting to come before you for another report.
Okay.
And I'm under public comment, Clay Graham.
I'm just upset you didn't wear Badger red. She didn't hear me.
Jill, can you put her under communications for next time instead of public comment? Thank you.
Welcome. Just state your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Clay Graham. Sorry about the terrible handwriting. And I'm from 59 Grosvenor Avenue, East Providence, just around the corner. Yeah, I'm just here to advocate for the expansion of bike lanes within East Providence. I think the bridge crisis has really highlighted that we don't have a diversity of transportation options, and we're kind of only mired within thinking about things from the car perspective. It's important to build connectivity of bike lanes, just for mobility justice and equity of transportation. And right now you don't really have that in EPD. It's just the East Providence bike path, which is great, but it's really difficult if you want to get there from Rumford, or if you even to get there from where I live at 59 Grosvenor, like Warren Avenue is not safe to ride on. And so, yeah, the building of infrastructure for bike lanes can help take pressure off of driving. It also builds community resiliency through increasing transportation access. It can be used by emergency vehicles during gridlock traffic, which we've seen like on the bridge. It can increase a feeling of safety with eyes on the street, and it can be used for traffic calming measures, which I think is on the docket tonight. So the width of a street is correlated with the speed of usually like traffic. So if you want to make it people slow down, decrease the width of a street. So yeah, I guess the bridge crisis also exposes equity, like lack of equity bike lanes within East Providence. For instance, like if you're in Barrington, Bristol, Warren, and you want to get to Providence for work, you can take the bike path. But if you're in Rumford or different parts of the city, you can't. And it's much more risky to, get to the Washington Bridge. And yeah, I don't know. I have a background in data science and spatial analysis. I'd be willing to help out on this pro bono if you need help with figuring out connectivity. I also advocate for check out Providence Street Coalition if you need help with planning. But I'm originally from Cleveland. I moved to Rhode Island 6 years ago. When I left Cleveland, there was pretty much car focused. Since I've left, they're rapidly expanding bus rapid transit as well as bike lanes throughout the city, and this is considered the Rust Belt. It's the same in Detroit and Buffalo. And also, when I moved here, my car insurance increased 3 times because of reckless driving and the amount of hit and runs. And so, yeah, it's just we need to diversify our transportation thinking in Rhode Island. And yeah, it'd be great to start in East Providence.
Yep, thank you, Clay. They're good ideas. The only thing I would add about the bike path, which I'm sure you know, is East Bay. It is in East Providence, and it's maintained by the state, and we have a hand in it, of course. But when you mention like Bristol, Warren, Barrington have good access, they do if they're along the water, like we do along the water. but there are parts of Bristol, Warren, way in town, I'm familiar with those towns,
Yeah.
that they're not near a bike path either. So it isn't like they're doing anything different than us. It's following those railroad tracks along the water.
I mean, they're not. It's terrible in the state generally, right?
Yeah.
But you need to think about it from like connectivity from like, if you think about it from like the coronary that leads to the artery that leads to the capillary, right? The capillary could be a really 25-mile-per-hour street that you don't need a bike lane on. The artery is the street that will lead you to that coronary, which will get you to Henderson Bridge or the East Providence Bridge. So it's just if you don't put the infrastructure in place, people aren't going to use it. The other night, my wife and I were walking, and there was biking, trying to take a left. He was lit up like a disco ball. He had lights all over his body, he was playing music, and he almost got hit by someone. And the only reason he didn't is because it was a 2022 Camry with self-braking technology. So, yeah, it's also like on us because we didn't build that infrastructure safe. So,
Thank you. Appreciate it. Next, Madam Clerk.
Under appointments, Michael Silva to the RI 250 Board, sponsor Council Vice President Rigo.
Council VP Rigo.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, Mr. President. At this time, I move Michael Silver to the RI 250 Board. For people who don't know who Mike is the Director of the Social Studies Department at the East Providence High School, and he'd be a great asset to this organization or board that was put together by Secretary Amori.
It's a motion and second by Councilwoman Souza. Other discussion? All in favor? Aye. The ayes have it.
Appointment.
Next
Bill
appointment.
Appointment Bill Keogh to RI 250 Board, sponsor Council Vice President Rigo.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. President, again, I move the nomination of Bill Keel to the RI 250 Board. Bill is a lifelong resident of East Providence, has knowledge of the city. Bill brings great assets to the music and art industry. He's very involved in that facet of the community. And from that standpoint, he would be a great asset to the RI 250 Board.
Motion by Council VP Rigo. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Lawson and Councilwoman Souza. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. And Councilman Lawson, as you were leaving, you want to add your
I'm an aye on Mike Silver.
aye on Mike Silva. Madam Clerk, could you add the vote 4-0 for Mr. Silva also? Thank you. Next item.
Appointment Natalie Van Landingham to Small Business Advisory, sponsor Councilwoman Souza.
Thank you. Natalie is a resident here in East Providence and a new business owner of the wonderful establishment Myrtle on Waterman Avenue. She is very active in the community and with small businesses. I think a perfect fit for this new advisory board. So I move passage.
Motion by Councilwoman Souza.
Second.
Second by Councilman Lawson. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. Next appointment, Councilwoman. Or Madam Clerk, you want to read the name?
Appointment Marco Pacheco to Small Business Advisory, sponsor Councilwoman Souza.
Thank you. And just for the record, the typo on Pacheco, it's Pacheco. Again, another longtime resident of the city, has been in multiple businesses and currently owns the liquor store on Taunton Avenue, Jordan. Again, another very well-versed in businesses and finance, and would be an asset to this advisory board. I move passage.
Second the motion.
Motion by Councilwoman Souza, seconded by Council VP Rigo. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. I want to thank Councilwoman Souza for getting the Small Business Advisory Committee going, and I would invite the other members of the council. We each have appointments to this board. So as you come up with a name from the business community, let us know. We'll get this advisory board filled. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Detailed update from administration on all ARPA funded projects for the city of East Providence. Discussion, Councilman Lawson.
Okay, so I made a list of the opera projects that we voted to fund. And I was just looking to see if I could get the name of the either point person or project manager. And if there's a quick, I mean, you don't have to get in depth on all of these, but just if we could know who the point person is, so for questions and stuff, and how far along in the process things may be. Take your time. So the first one I got, Patricia, is the adaptive playground equipment.
Hi, Council President, excuse me, Councilman. So we interpreted, and this is why Malcolm's coming up here, we interpreted this as you wanted a detailed update on the financial part of the projects.
That's Councilman Rigo would like that
separate
as
from the
well.
report. I'm happy to provide you with status on all of the different projects going forward. We were under the impression that you wanted the financial part of it, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have or get the information for you. If you want to go project by project, I can.
So the adaptive playground equipment for the special needs kids?
So is that for specifically for, not for Kent Heights, not that adaptive playground?
Yeah, I thought it was going into Kent Heights. Yeah,
Isn't that where,
Yeah, so I can tell you, we have a meeting on February 28th, a community meeting where we will have the designer, we will have folks from engineering, planning department. I believe one of you are on that meeting as well. The community meeting will be February 28th at Fuller Library.
okay. And
And that
is
will
there
be
somebody specific project manager for that project? Is there a point person who is checking in weekly on the status of things?
Well, it would have to be depending on where it's at. So I would imagine it's under planning. But I can double check that.
But no specific individual, just that, okay. Kent Heights project. Is that under Dan's purview? Is that,
Planning, Dan.
there's no single point person?
Were you asking for a point person for each individual project? And was that at a recent meeting? Okay.
Well,
Heights, excuse me.
it's been about 6 months out of these, so I was just wondering, is there a point person? How far along are we?
It's under planning. Keith, did you want to address?
Okay, well, we don't need the detail per se here, just, and then Councilman Rigo would get the financial stuff if that's available. The placemaking initiative, that's in planning, correct?
That's in planning.
that be Melissa?
Johanna. It's been Johanna, Melissa, and the Arts Council.
Okay. Melissa and the Arts Council. Storefront improvement, that is the economic development.
And Melissa Spur.
And Melissa, absolutely. By the way, if you guys get a chance, down the end of Warren Ave, she's opening a little shop. And it's gorgeous. Gonna be gorgeous. All right. We got 1 million for infrastructure, but I know we don't have anything yet for that. Townie Pride Park. There was, how much did you put aside for that, Anna?
It was 500.
Okay. Has there been any movement on that?
I'll have to get back to you on that as well.
Probably DPW, but
So the splash pad in Riverside, we got 200 grand. I know you guys are applying for a grant, but are we at least already out for RFP or?
I'll have to check with Director Borges.
Okay. Pierce Stadium Field, we allocated money for the walking path towards field, everything. Any movement there?
Same. I'll come back to you with again, we wanted all the financials. So, but I'll be prepared to have all of this updated
You have
information.
the update from the congressional, we were told by the mayor that Senator Reed had put that into the fiscal budget with the federal government. Do you know where that stands, that portion of the Pierce Field? money?
I do not have that in front of me now. I can get that for you.
The business incubator, is there a point person or a movement on that?
The last meeting that I was involved with the incubator was the feasibility study.
Okay.
And I'm sure, excuse me, Keith, can you come up to the microphone so it's on record? Thank you.
We put out an RFQ for the feasibility study. We got the responses in for that. So we're close to selecting a firm to be doing that
Nice.
study.
Very cool. The Crescent Park project, concession stand and event tent?
So I do have an update on that just because it was on back at something else. So as far as that project, the title examiner has reviewed the parcel with no restrictions. So we're moving forward with the bathrooms, concession stand, clam shack. The mayor has a meeting with the architect tomorrow with our engineering team and Tracy at 12:30. It will serve multiple purposes, obviously the concert, speech.
Perfect. Okay, so that meeting is tomorrow?
Correct.
All right, so can I email late afternoon asking for an update?
Sure.
Thank you. Public art, we discussed last meeting. Old Point Park, I see some work begun. We still have money, or did the money we allocate go towards those walk-in sidewalks that were put in?
I'll have to check with
Okay.
Borges.
The rec center, we already know about. The police station, we can discuss in a bit.
I do have that as well when you're
Yep.
ready for that.
And then the parking lot on Warren Ave, across from the Oddfellows. Any movement on that?
I'll have to get back. to
Okay.
you. Sorry.
I'll email you this list too.
Thank you. And I may have something by the end of the meeting.
No worries. No, it's just, my concern is it's 2024 and we got to make sure this ARPA funds are expended. So we're probably going to have these on the agenda for every meeting, just to make sure we don't want to give money.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Councilman,
We're in
good
that
idea.
same-
Email that in the morning and then
Absolutely.
they can react better by having a specific bulleted list in front of them. Thank you, Councilman, for bringing that up.
That was it for my list.
Thank you. And I just want to, just to go quickly, Councilman, if you want to, that's okay, just double check.
Absolutely.
So I have everything for you. Kent Heights, Townie Pride Park, Pierce Field, Bold Point, reallocating the money, the parking lot on Wardeman, and then we covered Crescent. Were there any others?
I think the
The
parking lot is
splash pad.
Warren, not Waterman.
Warren Ave
Warren Ave, yes.
and Splash.
Warren in purchase.
And then the splash pad. Thank you.
Did you get it, Councilman? She got it all? Okay. Next, Madam Clerk.
Receive updated report requested 11/21/23. Council requests updated report from October 3rd, 2023. Detailed ARPA allocation spending and existing purchase orders from inception to date, broken down by program and line item to include dates of ARPA expenditures. Receive report and discussion. Council Vice President Rego.
Councilman?
Thank you, Mr. President. As just read, this request goes back to October of last year and updated on the 21st of November. Just looking for updates as far as dates, projects, and when that money or those projects were done, and if there's any purchase orders or projects in the pipeline that we should know about in regards to the allocated ARPA money. And I see Malcolm's here. He could also tell us how much ARPA money is available to us at this time based on everything that my counterpart to the right talked about. I would presume that you have that money put us in an escrow. I shouldn't use the word escrow, but put aside in regards to what is available.
Yes, we have the money set aside. It's in a separate fund. And as of this report, we have spent 11.5 million. There was about $5 million in open POs. And so there shouldn't be really any more new POs coming in, because if you take that and add the 12.2 that the council had originally appropriated, all the funds are really accounted for. Now, the question is that some of the projects the council had put in for, the question is, you put $1 million, you put in 2, we don't really know what the final number is. So we could have surplus, or we may have to take money from other places. But the way it is right now, there really is no room for more projects to be put in unless the funds are reallocated. I believe on that list you've got, I listed all the, every single line. I do believe you also have the purchase orders with that. If there are any,
I see that. The only thing I'm missing is the dates as far as,
if you look at,
Right.
go back a few pages, you'll start seeing the list, vendor description, effective date. So that would be the date it's put in.
okay.
So that you've got the date on it, the amount, project description. And that's every single one. I think I've probably got about 10 to 15
Right.
pages.
I see that. Yep, I see that now on that column. Thank you. I'm good.
Thank you, Council VP, for the update. Thank you, Mr. Director. Next item.
Safety crosswalk signal discussion, Councilwoman Souza.
Thank you. So this kind of goes with what Mr. Graham was speaking to earlier regarding pedestrian safety and equitability in the community. Being someone who walks throughout the center of the city, it is actually faster to get to different areas with all the gridlock. I've noticed that throughout the center of the city that there are crosswalk signals that are inoperative. So when you're crossing Warren Avenue or attempting to cross Warren Avenue down near 7th Street or in front of the fire station, there is a signal there, but the signal isn't operating. And I think that definitely poses a major safety risk to pedestrians or cyclists trying to get from point A to point B. So I'd like to know from the DPW, or if Ms. Resendes can bring this to the administration and find out, one, why they're not operating, and two, who's responsible for them being operable. So I believe the one on Warren Avenue, I'm pretty sure that section is probably DOT. There is still a traffic light there, and that light also hasn't been working or been in use. My thought is that light is in use when somebody hits the button to cross the street, which would make sense. But if it's not functioning, then it defeats the purpose of having it there, which is confusing to residents. And that's a section of road that is very busy. And I believe in total on Warren Avenue, only 2 intersections, which would be the Broadway and Warren Avenue and Pawtucket Ave and Warren Ave, have functioning crosswalks, which are very far apart from each other, and certainly not the only places that people are crossing on that major road. So that was something that I definitely would like to have addressed or be answered from a safety perspective.
Councilwoman, I have 7th Street, and then the 2 intersections that you mentioned. Which area of Warren Ave was the other one that you mentioned?
It's Warren Ave and it's 7th Street.
It's
It crosses,
intersection.
yeah,
Okay.
it crosses Warren Ave.
So 7th at
near
Warren.
7, correct. And then in front of the fire station here on Broadway is also another intersection that doesn't have a functioning crosswalk. And that's in my short distance there. So I don't even know the rest of the city if other walking signals are not working. I'd be interested in knowing who keeps up with that, who checks on those, because that's really important for pedestrians.
I'd like to see if it's state or our office or we obviously want the councilwoman safe when she's going on.
Or anybody else. I mean,
Right.
there's so many children that cross the road and cyclists, so it just in general. So I can go right into the next bullet, which is
Number 4.
traffic- Number 4, traffic calming measures and school safety signage at the Sacred Heart School at 56 Purchase Street here in East Providence in the center of the city. So I know we talked about this quite a few months ago. Councilman Fogarty, who's not present today, had a discussion and was able to come up with a couple of things with the administration. The only thing that I've seen going up and down either direction of Taunton Avenue is one sign that states there's a school zone up ahead, which I don't think is sufficient notification that there's a school up ahead. It also doesn't post any speed signs. So normally in a school zone, they would have a sign saying what the speed should be in the school zone, and it doesn't have any going west on Taunton Avenue. So it's going east. There's one sign amongst many other signs. So I think visibility is also probably a reason why people don't notice it, because there's so many signs now on all these poles that people aren't really.
Was that as of today, Councilwoman, that you saw? Okay, because I know that Director Borges has been working with, as you mentioned, Councilman Fogarty. But we know that there was signage installed and that it was taken care of, but I'll bring back some of your points.
Yeah, I've only seen one. One of the things I do notice, because that is a wide section of the street where it bifurcates going to Grove Avenue and then continues on 44. And that crosswalk that's dated, we used to, at one point a few years ago, have a marker right in the middle for crossing so that people recall that there's pedestrian crossing. I know there is a sign that has marking that there's a pedestrian crossing, but I do find that it is effective to have in the middle of the road because it does cause people to slow down. They don't want to necessarily hit the object in the crosswalk. And then it gives people an opportunity to then cross the street because people aren't walking because the crosswalk is right there for the church. People aren't walking all the way down. Similarly, near Walnut Street in front of the Baptist Church, there's another crosswalk there that has a lot of foot traffic with, pet owners walking their dogs, the church on the weekend. And again, being right off the highway, people are coming at a good pace, not 25 miles an hour. So it doesn't give people a good time to cross the street. And unfortunately, motorists are just trying to get to where they're getting and not being, I think, as cautious as they should be. So that general area, I believe, would benefit from some calming measures other than just the signage that I think because we're inundated with signs, that there's a fatigue to some extent with signage. Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item.
Discuss impact of Washington Bridge closure in the city of East Providence City Council.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So I know we all have some comments to make. I will just say briefly that this council continues to do what we can when we can. I have, on behalf of the council, I have sent a letter to Governor McKee, basically just asking for a declaration of emergency, that I think that would open some doors to give us some assistance. We asked for some other things in that correspondence. We asked for things that the state is agreeing to and has already started to do, like compensating us for traffic patrols, including the increase that they recently received, bridge-related traffic controls. And our hope is that at some point, whenever this is all done, that the state realizes an obligation to come back to East Providence and repair some of our infrastructure, our streets, sidewalks, curbs, things that are being damaged every day by no fault of any one person, but 18-wheeler trucks and traffic coming through, in, and around East Providence. I will say that the letter did generate a response from the governor. He asked to meet, and I did inform the council that we did have a meeting a couple of days after that, and it included our superintendent of schools, our police chief, of course, the mayor, and school committee chairperson. And we let the governor know that even the school department is having some difficulty with buses traversing throughout the community. And they had a specific need to get the use of some smaller vans to try to bring some special needs students to and from school. And the governor agreed pretty much in principle, didn't write a check that day, but agreed to cover 3 or 4 of these vans for our school department to use. And it was interesting, the superintendent of schools mentioned that she's already had one resignation of a teacher who hopefully was close enough to retirement, but just cannot make the drive every day coming from somewhere westbound to get into East Providence, and just couldn't do it any longer and has left the system. And so we continue to do what we can do. Personally, I think that our local, everyone from the mayor down to the guys that are doing traffic control, in some cases women, it's a Herculean task. Motorists are frustrated, they're frazzled, they're yelling at police officers. I would never think to do that, but some of these people are so frustrated. People can't get out of their driveways. Some days are good, other days are not. We see postings on social media, the road looks clear. 20 minutes later, it's crowded. When I drove here tonight, 195 was backed up both ways. A little before that, it was empty. You just don't know. With that, open this up to some more discussion. And I do think that the one missing piece is we'd like to be a little more informed from the state, from the governor, from anyone. There was the meeting yesterday with the federal representative coming here to investigate. The council was not involved in that. I didn't want to be involved to speak or to micromanage anything, but I would have liked to have known about it and maybe have some representation there. So I'm not the governor. I know he has his hands full, and so does his staff, so does our own mayor. This is not an easy crisis. So with that, other comments? Council VP Rigo.
Thank you, Mr. President. I touched on this earlier. We all get wrapped up in the traffic. We all, obviously, that is the crux of the problem. But we, as the gatekeepers of the finances of the city, and Councilwoman Souza touched on this matter in regards to people not being able to pay their rent. The economic impact that this potentially is going to have on the city, if they're talking about 1-2 years, we really need to start looking at that, asking the state for assistance. Our businesses are getting hurt. They're being strangled, which has a direct impact on the amount of revenue that we collect. If businesses aren't open, there's no business renewal license. They're not making money. We're not receiving our share of any state taxes that might be there. And we're hurting businesses. If you're a business and starting up, and for everything that has been going on, and people, you're hearing what we've done great things in the city in the last 3 or 4 years. Well, this can cripple it. This is going to take it back, because why do you want to come and open a business right here, where I was down on a business call yesterday in southeastern Massachusetts, and people were talking, not knowing my position. But I'm not going up there. Why should I get caught in that? That has a direct impact. And again, you're looking for business. And we're talking about people needing jobs. And if they can't have a job and they live in East Providence, they're going to go elsewhere. And that's going to have an impact on valuations of homes. If you got a choice right now if you're looking at buying a house and it was Cumberland, Rhode Island, South Kingston, Rhode Island, Warwick, Rhode Island, or East Providence, Rhode Island, where do you think you're going to go right now? Where are you going to go? East Providence is last, not because of anything that any of us did wrong, because of that. And if we don't look at those issues and we don't stop pressing the state and our federal delegation to help us, we've already started talking about, the mayor was on record talking about what next year's budget is going to be a bear for us to manage. It's only going to be worse if we're not getting these revenues. Valuations of homes could drop. These are things, everybody's looking at the small window of, I can't get from 195 Wampanoag Trail and everything, and that's great. But the long-term consequences that this is going to have, if we don't start pressing people now to get the relief from our delegation, from the governor, on the economic impact of the city, that's what I'm afraid of. We can have the best plan. We can have every developer from Boston on south building more apartments. If you're a young person looking here, you're not going to come. Why do you want to spend $2,800, $2,400 on the Christine on Wampanoag Trail to sit in traffic? You might as well stay in Boston. My kid has an easier drive in South Boston right now than we do here. Why come down here? And that's what I'm saying. It's no fault of anybody from the mayor on down. But if we don't start addressing that issue and the long-term plan as far as a recovery, like, hey, East Providence, I know he keeps on saying, we're all saying we're open and we're trying our best, but we got to look at that. That is the most important thing. If they're saying 2 years, the economic impact on this city could be 5 or 6 years if we don't start addressing those issues right now. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Lawson.
Yeah, I'll just add that, beyond the obvious, we're looking at our police department having to work extra to man these details. The roads, we had people couldn't get out of their own driveways. But it's time that we're going to have to rally together as a city. December 11th, we got word that the bridge that just passed in July is now catastrophically in failure. And there's nothing we can do about that. So what we can do is keep monitoring the traffic flows. From my understanding, the center of the city's been better the last couple of days. Getting out of South EP has been a little tough on the trail, but there's going to be a pain point no matter where we look. There's going to be a pain point, and we got to understand that. I've been well vocal of my disappointment. This isn't just an inconvenience, like the governor said. This is our quality of life that is taking a hit. This is something that we're going to show what Townie pride is, because we're going to come out of this very, very strong. We're getting beat down now, but we got to realize that it's going to be another year or two. And we're going to have a lot of fluid situations. We're going to be adjusting some traffic here and there. And hopefully it gets to a relative, it's always going to be a pain in the nose, but it's going to be that way until this bridge is fixed. I am waiting to hear from the feds, not even the state. The feds are here now is it going to be a complete rebuild, which I kind of got the inkling based on the DOT guy from the feds saying that he only gets called in when the conversation switches from repair to replace. So I would just say to all our fellow townies that we're going to have to come together, and we're going to have to realize that until this bridge is fixed, we're going to have these bad traffic issues. We're going to have, and even beyond the traffic, it's an image, like the councilman said, people, why do I want to go in East Providence, get stuck in that traffic? If you're a local business, that's the word on the street now. So now we have to rehab that image, and we're working hard. The mayor's office, us, trying to encourage people, get out there, support the local businesses. That's about what we can do. Our power as a city council is limited. We can't tell DOT to do things. We just don't have the ability. We don't have the funding to offer grants to businesses that were hit. What we can do is stay strong and keep advocating for our fellow townies, keep working with the city administration, the state reps, and do what we can to help this city beyond compensation for, paying for the first responders and stuff. Maybe it's time they bring in their manpower so our police force isn't getting overstretched. Although I'm sure the overtime's a nice perk, but after a while you get burnt out. So I agree. Let's ask the state for some help, and that's it for me.
Thank you. Councilwoman?
Thank you. So just want to piggyback off of that and then kind of segue into a couple of the items that I have on the docket.
Just before, say what you need, but before you change the topic, I think Director Resendes would address the bridge.
So one
situation.
of my concerns because of the rerouting is also our Henderson Bridge. So we know that that bridge was opened kind of immediately, knowing that this Washington Bridge was going to have a closure. So that still is under construction, that area, which is off and on going. So some days they're working, other days they're not working. I don't know what the status of that project is in full, but I know I'm understanding that it's not meant for 18-wheelers to be going across it so fluently as they are, or other heavy vehicles. I don't see a posting on what the weight limit is supposed to be or what restrictions are, but the bridge in general isn't safe, in my opinion, for all of that traffic that's going over. We have 3 lanes with no barriers separating oncoming the 2 directions. So you have 1 lane coming into the city, 2 going out, and no medium in between. We're in the winter months with ice and snow and other inclementing weather that can potentially be extremely hazardous for drivers on the road. So, I think that's something that needs to be discussed and looked at, and maybe some reassurance for the residents or, the drivers that bridge is for the long term going to be able to sustain all of this traffic, and especially these heavy vehicles, these 18-wheelers and heavy delivery trucks that are going through our neighborhoods that aren't meant to go through our neighborhoods are very unsafe. So again, signage, I know we have signage out there, but I think they could be reworked a little bit better than what they are currently. I think some of the signage is too late for some people when they're driving before they notice it, and then they're stuck in a position where they're not sure where they need to go. The navigation systems, GPS, Waze, whatever people are using, certainly probably aren't as up to date with the traffic changes that we have going on or the restrictions in the city, which then puts, again, people in a position where they're going not through their own fault, but they're going through neighborhoods or areas that they cannot be going through for safety issues, but they now have no choice, and it's not a situation where they can back up and easily reroute themselves. So I'd like, again, this is going to be talking about number 7, so I'll yield to Ms. Resendes if she has anything that she wants to update the council about this bridge.
Thank you, Councilwoman and Council President. So I just briefly, just to touch on a few things that the various council members have mentioned. So we did have an opportunity to tour the bridge with the federal delegation as well as the federal administrator. Right, he did talk about 2 years. One thing that I took away from that press conference was that he is aware of the economic impact that it'll have on both sides of the bridges. And what I walked away with was that there will be some sort of support, and it is a reality. I can say that I've had the opportunity to tour the city at various hours of the day with the mayor, peak traffic time, and we are seeing a difference. We were able to flow freely throughout the city. We want to reiterate, as you said, Councilman, rally together to let the folks know, both in the city, out of the city, that East Providence is open for business. We were able to go from one side of the city to the other in some of the areas that were considered gridlock in the past that are now, you're able to go to visit some of the restaurants, some of the local stores. So, it's a process. So I will segue a little bit into what you were mentioned, Councilwoman. I do have a report out, if you'd like, on the traffic, specifically some of the changes that the police chief has, and working with our office, has implemented. So currently, we're manning the following intersections from 6 to 7 a.m. or 10 to 11, and 3 to 4 to 7 or 8 p.m. So that's Broadway at Warren, Freeborn at Broadway, Broadway at Grosvenor. We typically have one floater or a detail officer who covers like any unforeseen trouble spots or moves personnel around. RIDOT covers Grosvenor at North Hull, restricting North Hull and associated side streets to resident traffic only, which seems to help. And, if someone comes through, they move to the side. We're also covering North Carpenter at Freeborn, Orchard at North Carpenter, restricting Freeborn and North Carpenter to residents only. The mayor and I took a ride that way as well. It seems like everyone's following those rules. It is a narrow road, but it seems people are doing the right thing. And it was free flowing as well. We took a ride around the Rotary. Early reports through our police department indicate that RIDOT is moving to taper the 2 lanes at 195 West further east, that it has, in fact, improved traffic. Late this afternoon at about 4:30 or so, received an email from Cynthia at RIDOT saying that the South Shore Expressway changes that have been implemented seem to be working. So they're going to continue with that for the next few days. Warren Ave east of Broadway was recently restriped, by RIDOT, making it 2 delineated lanes, the right lane being right turn only. Now, stop me if I'm giving you too much information that you already know. So we requested that RIDOT restripe the northbound South Broadway from Laura Street to Warren Ave to also make that 2 lanes. We're requesting RIDOT restripe southbound Broadway from Grosvenor to Freeborn, making it 2 lanes further north. And I can provide this to you, Councilwoman, as well, or to the rest of the council. Requesting RIDOT restripe the Broadway lanes that go under Route 195 to make them brighter. So we're trying to really make changes here. Also extending these lanes further south to Warren Ave and north, better delineating the left and a hand turn to Freeborn Ave. Now, this is important because I think it happened even this evening, right before the council meeting. If there's any type of incident on 195, crash, disabled vehicle, this almost immediately will impact local traffic, right? So if there isn't a crash, we're smooth sailing. And that happened this evening at Broadway. So that's probably some of the gridlock that you experienced. So at times, there's nothing detail officers or traffic control people can do as it becomes a volume issue where nowhere to put cars. But again, the last few days, I've taken rides with the mayor at, in the middle of the day, in the evening, peak traffic hours, and people and the traffic control officers seem to be, it's a number of factors. It's behavior changing. It's knowing which roads are closed, closing off those roads to residents only. I think it has relieved some of that, some of those issues.
And I appreciate the update because a couple of the things, so on number 7, the traffic flow citywide regarding the increase in traffic due to the closure was one of the things. So again, walking the neighborhoods, looking at different options that were plausible that could assist. Those are some of the changes that I was looking for implementation. So, and I think it could be somewhere that stays that way. So on Broadway, going towards the on-ramp near Freeborn, that there's no reason why that shouldn't be a 2-lane. all the time to help with the flow of traffic. I know, speaking with some of the patrol officers and the traffic control, that at that light and that on-ramp, there is confusion with drivers where they think that both lanes can turn because there isn't signage there, and I think maybe that would help going towards the highway on Broadway,
Which side? I mean,
on the side with Rebello on your right.
okay,
So going towards the highway.
signage, okay.
South. Yep, heading towards Riverside. Thank you. So we know the right lane is the turn onto the highway, but depending on who's controlling traffic because of the gridlock going back, they're allowing people to turn, which I don't think during those high peak hours is a bad thing to do to decrease and continue with the flow. There needs to be a consistent pattern so that people aren't confused. So if you know that that's a turn, then you're going to be in that lane to turn. But if then you decide, the next traffic control officer decides, no, we want you to go straight, it then puts people in a predicament because now they have to figure out how to wrap around to come back to the highway to get back into that traffic. So I think clear, consistent, and concise communication for the motorists and for the traffic control is really important because I think some people, they're doing the best that they can to move the traffic, but not everybody works at the same, pace.
Which may segue into your number 6, if you'd like me to address that.
Yes, because so number 6 also, so thank you for the update regarding increasing the lanes. So I guess we just need a little bit more clarification for vehicles to know which lanes are turning. Both of them should be turning during high peak, again, to keep the traffic moving. And then the intersection, so number 6 with the traffic control intersection training. So that's not just how it affects the Washington Bridge. So I think those posts, they're not the most desirable, though we've increased the stipend for doing them because, again, of the aggression and the difficulty in manning. So even on Grosvenor, that intersection, I've sat there for 15 minutes and watched how they try to manage that flow. And I can see how it becomes challenging where one side isn't getting let down because the other sides continue to back up. So it's a choice that you have to make, and obviously there's a ripple effect for that, and then you get people that are angry and so forth. So those, I think they're managing that in the best way that they can, and I appreciate that there's officers there with traffic control personnel to help guide them and support them because it is a safety for them too, because vehicles aren't always paying attention. They want, so they're getting potentially run over or hit. So I know it's very dangerous, and I really do appreciate the men and women in those posts. But number 6 really is speaking more towards other details throughout the city that are for road work or utility construction. Those are the types that I'm wanting to discuss today, and that can vary from an officer or a traffic control. So was that what you were going to speak on, or were you thinking more about the Washington Bridge?
Well, it was just specific to traffic control training in general. So I do have that from the chief if you're interested.
Yes, no, I am. So, and the reason I have this on here is because in my neighborhood for the past month and until May, there's going to be work done for the gas company. So RI Energy is in that area and they're doing work. So certainly throughout the weeks, there's different parts of the neighborhoods that are closed to traffic, only local traffic, and we have, our traffic control offices there. So my concern is depending on who's sitting. So I guess let me ask you a question. Maybe this is part of what you have here. What is the role or the understanding for those individuals? What is their role in that traffic control position?
So and then again, this comes directly from the chief, from Chief Francisconi. So the new traffic control crossing guard personnel have to attend and successfully pass the state of Rhode Island traffic control certification training. They also receive training on East Providence Police School Crossing Guard, traffic control personnel policy, East Providence Police Code of Ethics, their Code of Conduct policy, training on the federal manual on uniform traffic control devices. Don't know quite what those devices are. I don't know if they're the lights and whatnot. And then guidelines promulgated by the East Providence School Department for crossing guards. So prior to working on their own, new traffic control officers do have to shadow police officers on traffic control details, and the shadowing exists with crossing guards at various crossings. They're able to watch, ask questions. They're also provided with job training as well, and direction by sworn officers. So they're not just thrown in the middle of an intersection and asked to handle that intersection. So they do work with the seasoned crossing guards as well as patrol officers. This specific information is bridge related, but prior to working the Washington Bridge, these details, they meet with the officer in charge to discuss exactly where they'll be assigned, what's expected of them, what the expectations are, and then the bridge officer in charge also oversees and supervises them, because obviously it's changed a little bit, right? So every time there's a change with the traffic pattern, that they have to, the officer in charge has to inform all of the different traffic control officers as to what those changes are and how to implement them for that particular morning or that particular evening.
Would it be safe to say that there's some type of policy on what the expectation would be when being on a post?
So yes, they do have to, they are trained on the police code of conduct policy and traffic control personnel policy. So but I can get additional information on what.
So, yeah, so would it be, so a couple of things. So one, I think signage, again, or notification that there's construction ahead versus a person waiting to turn onto the road and then see that it's closed off and having to redirect. Because, now you're having to back out or pull into somebody's driveway if there's something easily available. So I think kind of having something maybe 60 feet, 90 feet ahead, letting people know that there's a detour that's necessary up ahead would be beneficial to reduce, irritation.
Are you talking, Councilman, on your particular, that neighborhood that you were mentioning, or just in general?
In general, in general. And then it would be safe to say that a patrol officer or a detail traffic control should be out of the vehicle doing the detail versus in the vehicle controlling the traffic. Would that be safe to say that everybody should know that that's an expectation of the?
I can't
post?
speak on behalf of the chief in terms of
That's
safety.
what I'm asking, because
Yeah.
I'd like to know what the expectation is. Because when vehicles are coming down a road and the person sitting in the car, majority of the day, they're not doing, in my mind, traffic control. Anybody could sit in a car, you could just leave the car there empty. Nobody's going to be controlling, and I don't think leaving down, having them, go up a one-way instead of getting out of the car and moving a cone, and then telling a driver, I can't keep getting in and out of the car out of my car to move cones all day long. It's easier if you just go around. I think that's pretty unacceptable.
Right.
If you don't want to do the job, then you shouldn't be doing the job.
I'd imagine, and again, I can't speak for the chief, but I'd imagine that he would want traffic control officers out directing traffic, as I heard the mayor say.
Right.
Numerous
And
occasions
I'm not
as well.
saying that you can't, it's cold. I'm not saying you can't go into a vehicle, warm up if there's nothing happening. But if there is a vehicle coming, I think the expectation would be that everybody knows to get out of the vehicle and assist the vehicle. I was on a street where it was closed off, and four vehicles and a moving vehicle came down the road, and they all had to turn around because they had nowhere to go. And the traffic control officer was not in the vehicle to tell them it's not a throughway. The road's closed off unless you live these addresses. There's nothing you can do.
Will you let us know, Councilwoman, so that way I can relay that to the chief?
Yeah, and this is more general, so it's
Okay.
generally
Because
speaking. Right, because there's this, if it's happening in one area, it can be happening throughout the city, and I certainly can't walk the whole city on a regular basis because I have. But it's not, and I appreciate what they do, and I think it's important, and it's not in any way to talk poorly about them. I support our police department wholeheartedly, and I've shown that throughout my tenure here, but I think it's important that people are doing the things that they're supposed to. And I don't appreciate the calls for people saying that they get a lot of backlash with people aren't allowing them to go through or making them have to be inconvenienced when the job is to get out there and do the traffic control, whatever that is. Understood. I'll relay that. Thank you. So that finishes that.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Next item.
Receive update on Crescent Park concession stand discussion, Councilman Lawson.
I think we already got that.
City clerk's license process review. Is there anything else?
Yeah, could you do the whole thing again?
Ms. Mello back here.
No, but I do want to say, I don't know if you wrote down an action item, if you can get a list of state versus city. Is that okay? Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Next.
Update regarding police department renovation discussion, Council Vice President Rigo and Councilman Lawson.
All right, so I put this on the thing because I've been hearing too many reports that the city council allocated $2.5 million to renovate that police station, which needs a renovation. It needs to be brought up to modern policing standards, from evidence storage, interview rooms, they need new furniture, the bathrooms. We allocated 2.5 million, and then we applied for a grant. I had asked the architect, but I was told that they're not going to be here. We just want to make it clear, Patricia, that we're getting reports, the mayor's telling the architects that that they're not going to be able to get that full 2.5. So can we get the stance of the administration? Because we're fully prepared to fund the 2.5. And matter of fact, we already did. And then we said, you guys asked us to do a resolution for the grant. So is the mayor telling the architects to go cheap, or do they know they got a minimum 2.5 and then whatever the grant is?
I don't have that information, Councilman, but I can tell you that the Public Safety Infrastructure Grant application was completed.
Awesome.
All done. And I know that there is another meeting scheduled this Thursday at 3 p.m. with JCJ Architecture.
Okay.
So I can find that answer and get back to you.
Could one of our city council, president or vice president, be in attendance to let the architects know we're willing to fund the whole thing?
I don't see why not. I'll inquire. It's this Thursday p.m. and it's JCJ Architecture, and they're going to give us a progress update.
Awesome.
I'll try to go.
Not if they could,
This-
it'd be nice if they could come before the council and give us a report out. So in case we have questions about things, that would be helpful for the next council meeting.
So I would presume similar to what was told us is the process normally with an architect. And we all have lived through this with the community center, that they need to know what the budget is. So I think, as my fellow council people, Rick just said it nicely, is that they should know that they have at least $2.5 million.
Not a fellow council?
I think so. But anyways, that they should know that they have $2.5 million to start with, so we can get this ball rolling. Appropriated that money, and I think we are all, again, not speaking now for any of the other four, but I think we all anticipate that condition of that building, that the 2.5 million should be easily expended. At least they have a starting point based on what we lived through. Thank you for your listening.
Great, thank you all. Next item.
Under, excuse me, under Mayor Communications, the 2024 Comprehensive Plan Update, Director of Planning and Economic Development, Keith Burns.
First, before you start, I want to apologize to you, Jim. I was trying to find a way to weave you in earlier in the agenda so you wouldn't have to sit here this long, although I don't think we're too late yet, but it just wasn't working out. So thank you for your patience.
Thank you. We can stay up late. So, our goal was to just have this preliminary discussion with you here about the status of the comprehensive plan. Now that we're nearing the end of the process, just to revisit the topic, let you know where we stand. Our consultant, Krista Moravec from Horsley Witten, was going to be here, but was sick. So we didn't want to delay. We just wanted to keep the ball rolling. So in the purpose of this is not to be like an endorsement of what we've done so far, because we just plopped this big document before you. It's just sort of a status update here. We did have a PowerPoint presentation if it's there, but if not, that's fine.
Yeah, we can skip that.
As an overview, I mean, what the comprehensive plan is, for those who might be unfamiliar with it. It's sort of a shared a vision of the community's future, and a lot of public outreach goes into that. It's a pathway for how we get there together as a community. Bless you. The reasons to have a plan is to protect what we love about the community, to improve the community, target where we can be better, and in transformative ways to create new opportunities. And there's also the legal reason, which is that state law makes the comp plan the foundation of the community's land use regulations, and local rules and decisions have to revolve around the plan. And that's particularly true when it comes to zoning. In the comprehensive plan, it's used by local decision makers like yourselves, other city boards and committees, particularly the planning board, city departments. It's used by state agencies when they're giving out grants and making their decisions, and also private investors and developers. And the more it's referred to by decision makers, the more successful it is. It's a tool that guides decisions about businesses, investments, equity, development, environment, and history, and covers a lot of issues that the community deals with, things like transportation, parks and recreation, housing, economic development, infrastructure decisions. It looks at where we've been and where we are now as far as data and trends, where we want to go as far as future needs and visions, and how do we get there with an action plan and implementation schedule. It's been a long time coming. The public engagement for this was largely done in 2021 with 4 ward meetings, various community surveys, and various topic meetings about different topics such as housing, economic development. Other input was gained from interviews with city staffs, meetings with city commissions and committees, and a review of drafts by many groups. So the draft that you have has different elements or chapters in it about different topics such as housing, economic development, cities, services and facilities, transportation, natural resources, climate change and sustainability, history, culture, and the arts, and land use. And there's also an implementation schedule at the end that summarizes actionable steps and who's responsible for things and what the priorities are. So I won't get into all the details of all the elements there. And if I did, it would really be just the tip of the iceberg anyway, because there's so much in the plan. It covers so many issues. The land use element of the plan is sort of the meat of the plan, and sets the stage for the city's land use regulations. And that has different goals and recommendations in there. It also has the future land use plan, which is arguably one of the more important parts of the plan. It's a map of the plan that shows what the recommended uses are across the city. And so zoning has to revolve around that. So as far as the next steps, this draft has been put online. There's a page about the comprehensive plan on our website. This draft before you still has to be finalized. There'll be some changes to that there. The zoning map is going to be updated. The engineering division is working on that now. The state did provide some preliminary comments on this plan. That was one of the comments they had, that the zoning map in there wasn't really legible and had to be modified in that way. And it's just something the city needs in general, is to have a more legible zoning map. And this draft has to meet some of the other state comments that we received. And there's a lot of, to approve this, there's a lot of notification needed. There have to be a public hearing before the planning board, public hearing before the council. The council ultimately adopts the plan, and then it has to go to the state for their review. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, time to take my pills. Yeah, and the state, when they review it, they have their own public input where anyone can comment to the state about changes they might want to see or issues they have with the plan. So, you know, it'll still be a few months to get through that process, but we are nearing the end here. And after we are done, it's time to actually implement the things in the plan. And there might be some zoning map amendments that are necessary because the zoning map has to comply with the comprehensive plan.
Councilman Rigo would like to interject at this point.
Keith, thank you for you and your department putting this together. I know you've come into this, you've been here about a year now. I'm going to be very brief on this. And again, we just perused this, and page 14 is the starting point and basically the ending point. It talks about affordable housing in the city. We can have every developer come in here and put these price tags in, but we're not helping the community to attract people. And we talk about it on a statewide basis, and we want to be a leader. To my fellow council people, 14 is the crux of the issues that we keep on hearing about. We can't have these pie in the skies. Why are we going to keep on? And I'm all for, if there's property that's, you know, situated to make it better, but if we can't take care of our fellow townies, using Rick's quote all the time, that's the crux of everything here. We can't afford to be chasing people out of the city, and that's what's happening. And I think this is probably one of the most important aspects right here. I haven't gone through it, but 14, affordable housing. That gets thrown around. That's one of those cliches that gets thrown around. And it's saying here, unless we address it, and we as a council and a city, we should be the leaders. If we're proud of East Providence and what it is and where we were and where we want to be, we've always taken care of our own. By letting these carpetbaggers come in from Massachusetts and just start ruining it, raising prices, and they're not investing in the city and they're gone afterwards, they don't have any feel the way that the five of us do that sit on this council that have been lifelong residents of the city. We can have we can have 280 pages, but unless we take care of our fellow humans and our fellow townies, everything else is, in my mind, a waste.
Thank you, Councilman. It's an important question. It's also difficult because we don't have wage and price and rent controls, but we can do what we can do legally. Councilman Lawson?
I just want to say that, you know, I've been hopping on this comprehensive plan because, you know, you're right, it is our North Star. What is needed to guide our decisions as we go forward. I know me personally, I look at EP more like Mayberry than a bustling urban center. I know I have zero interest in cutting down Saucony Woods and stuff like that. I think Metacomet caught us by surprise. So I think we need to protect what we have that we don't want to see developed. And we got to look at what needs to be redeveloped. Things like that. Affordable housing, building high-end condo and apartment complex isn't helping. Is not helping at all. You know, we built what, a few thousand? Metacomet's going to be what, 800 and something, Christine, all the, at least 2,000 units. Our population never went up. So who's buying these houses? That's what I'm saying. So this notion that we got to build our way, no. All that's doing is putting money in developers' pocket. What we need to do is be smart, look at redevelopment, and look at the quality of life for the city. I know me personally, people I talk to day in, day out, they like the small town feel. They like the laid backness. You know, Riverside, we're a little village down there. We don't have box stores. We don't have, I mean, other than Shores. You know, everything, our restaurants are all owner operated. I think we got a Dunkin' Donuts and a Domino's. But that's the feel we like. And that's what we expect. I think a lot of the pushback people hear when they see all this development through the city, they get nervous because they do like that Mayberry style feel of East Providence, even though we're a city. You know, even if you look at this, I guarantee it's going to say the village of Rumford and the village of Watchamoket and stuff. So this is going to be a fun process. I like the wonky stuff. And I think we can come up with a very good, I call it the North Star, a guiding light. So we can make informed decisions when developers come before us, when zoning changes, and we can work with our fellow townies on what do we want to see the city like in 10 years.
I can tell you too that through the help of a grant we got from the state, we do have a consultant who's investigating adopting an inclusionary zoning policy throughout the city.
Yep.
Currently, that only exists in the waterfront district. And what that means is if you have a developer come in building something for a certain amount of units, like let's say 10 or more units, then they have to set aside a certain percentage of those units for deed restricted affordable housing. And by law, it's I think it's 25% of the units.
They need to build more Bullocks Point Village and deed restrict them for 30 years. That's what was starting to happen too, is deed restricted places, they ran out and they went up to market rate and stuff, so.
Affordable housing is different for everybody.
Right.
So,
What I can afford may be different from money
Yeah,
back.
there is a formula. You know, it isn't a whimsical number picked out of the sky. There's a formula. It's complicated and very hard to describe to people. But, you know, affordable housing is not Section 8. It's federal and state formulas that are better than nothing. You know, and
maybe it's affordable for a certain.
yeah, not for everyone, right?
A certain demographic, so that's
Yeah.
really a good, an equal playing field.
But you can't make someone, you know, if we do public land, I don't advocate. I want to keep all our public parks and public lands public. But these private sales, you know, we can control what we can control, and hopefully this will be that guiding star that you talk about.
Without obviously going through this, the gentleman that came up earlier, Mr. Graham, was there any consideration when coming up with this comprehensive plan addressing pedestrians and cyclists and that nature of transportation?
You know, there are a lot of recommendations in the plan that generally promote those things. And to make it better, we will be doing a citywide bike and pedestrian plan, which we got through another grant from the state. You know, won't start for a few months. The state is actually administering the process, and they'll be the ones who are hiring the consultant. But part of the main thrust is exactly what he was talking about, was to look at ways to connect other areas to the East Bay Bike Path, connect the East Bay Bike Path to points north, and just look at other ways, even if it doesn't involve the bike path, throughout the whole city. So we'll be taking a good look at that over the next 18 months or so.
Down in Riverside, Crescent View Ave, we painted a bike lane from the bike path down to the carousel.
Mhm.
That was easy because there's no on-street parking. These other areas like center of the city, it may be a little difficult to have some bike lanes because of the on.
Yeah.
But listen, we got a robot roaming around on Mars. I'm sure we could figure it out.
So I'm thinking that at least for the center of the city where there's the congestion, but that's also where people are trying to get onto the bike path or the on-ramps.
Exactly, yeah.
When the Henderson Bridge, that whole area is supposed to be like a parkway where there's pedestrians. And so I think that bigger plan, and that's why I was asking for this, would require that certain streets then change traffic flow. Like we would have to probably think about implementing one-ways and look at different parking, which is something that I've been thinking about and I've talked about in the past, especially in the White Neck area where those streets are very congested and tight and small, that they probably would benefit from alternating one-ways. So I think a study on that. So it would be interesting to see what that study would look like and that consultant would come up with, because I think there's a way of doing it that would work. And then it would just, again, have to be restricting parking, which would be something that might be
Yeah.
difficult with all the multifamilies that are in the center of the city.
Yeah, and sometimes those things can be controversial.
Right.
In Hope Street in Providence, there was a controversy about removing the parking to have a temporary bike lane in there. So that's one of the things that this study would look at, is where, there might be low-hanging fruit regards to those issues where those connections could be better made.
They tried that alongside Providence College. Remember, they had to rip it all up within a couple of weeks. People were up in arms. First Street here in East Providence didn't work. 1 week and people were, so we have to educate public. Rhode Island is not very pedestrian friendly, transportation friendly. Everyone has their own car. And there are bicyclists in the city, I understand, but it's a slow learn.
They kept was it South Water Street? They did that, took out where
Right.
Plant City is and stuff.
That actually came out nice after they readjusted it with the
And
parking.
so sometimes you got to get past that initial, what are you doing? What are you guys crazy? Because then after a while, it's, oh, actually, this makes sense.
I think it's thinking about what services or
Right.
stuff is in that general area.
Mhm.
People would actually be.
Food stores.
Right, so-
such, yep.
Unfortunately, we're in an area that people are going elsewhere via car. You're not cycling to Cranston to work or to Pawtucket. People, and I'm sure maybe there are some people who may. Great, but it's not the average.
I was talking to Council President, I forget what we were talking about, but we mentioned with this bridge closure, it's a good time for us to assess how we get around in this city. Because that's what caused the backup, was people couldn't get onto the highway. So, let's look at it all.
I
Jim,
think
did
the
you want to
winter
add anything from the office? I know you were here tonight. I want you to add to the conversation if you'd like.
I think Steve's done a great job of really giving a really positive overview of what's happened here. But from my perspective, Rick, I know that we want to be welcoming to new people, but we also want to make sure that people who've lived here for decades, who've raised their families here, are getting the best they can get from their community. And that's, I think, what we tried to do here, to try to balance something that's welcoming to new residents to come into our city, but also to make sure that affordable housing is a huge problem. It's something that every level of government is going to have to get together to try to figure out how to reduce pricing for housing. We all have our stories. I have my own stories about my son trying to buy a house. He hasn't been able to buy one. And it's been very frustrating to him. I feel badly. He's one of thousands of young people who really can't afford to live in many of the communities that they'd like to be in. So East Providence included. So it's something that
And that's to my
Like what-
point, when you
Yeah.
have a developer come in, they're not going to charge something that we would consider affordable based on our salaries because they're investing tens of millions of dollars making these big extravagant developments. So they have to make a margin and a profit. So it's not, and that's not what I see for our community. I rather have open space than have all these buildings and no tree. You know, we already have a heat index, the wazoo, in the center of the city that we're trying to adjust. You know, and I know we're working on it with getting, 20+ trees planted a year, but we're so behind on that. And when they're cutting down more trees to build, it's not helping the situation either. So we have to find a medium.
It's
I had-
very complicated. My final comment, well, go ahead and then.
I was going to say, I had the conversation. I know this sounds like a stump speech, but it was a older woman. She said, Rick, my husband's passed away. My children are grown out of the house. She goes, I'll sell my single family home tomorrow to a young up and coming family. But where am I going to go? There's no place we don't have, like in Florida, you got 55 plus communities all over the place. We don't really have that. And even if it wasn't over 55, she can't find an apartment because that house is paid off. Or most people that been in the house for a while, their mortgage is $1,000 or less. So there's so many moving parts to the affordable housing that I just personally don't think build is the answer. I think there has to be some policy in the back working. And again, do we know how many Airbnbs we have? How many houses were bought up in these provinces for that single purpose? So.
Jim, you wanted to add something, and then I'll go to
I just
Councilman
saying,
Rigo.
as you indicated, a lot of elderly folks who may want to get out of their home so that a younger person can't do it.
Correct.
And so and some of them, they want to age in their home.
Yeah.
Those are things that are all, very positive for people who, raise families in those homes and stay there. But it is a problem because it's a backlog and young people, the old process of older people moving on and then younger people coming in and
Yep.
that's kind of broken too. So
Exactly.
that's an important.
Councilman?
But before I will say, as long as I've been around working with you guys, this planning department, they know what East Providence is about. From my work with the Arts Council with these guys. So I know we can have a good conversation of what we feel East Providence is and where we want to be going. But so thank you guys.
And I'd just like to add one more thing. I know that our government has really, over the years, over the decades, has been very supportive of good planning in our community. I think that's paid off in dividends over the years. We've had good planners going all the way back to Joe Savick, Gene Boyle, George Caldo. I can go through all of our directors who've all, I think, understood how important planning is to moving forward. I certainly.
And for every story we hear about someone says, I'm leaving, I know a lot of people coming
Oh, yeah.
and that like staying. I met some South Kingston. I think you were with me. We were over at program the other night, and a couple from South Kingston said how much they liked it here. But I want to end with a comment, but I want to go to Councilman Rigo.
Jim, you bring up a good point as a student of history and economic history. We should really look at times recycle themselves. And one area that we should look at is the 1980s. What transpired, and Rick talked about down in Riverside as far as the deed restriction, all that started then. And again, I'm probably not telling you anything you don't know, but if you look at the history of where we are now with boomers being out of their house, 1980, that's when they were looking to buy houses. And to your son and situation, now this generation is having the same issue that boomer had 40 years ago. And cities and towns did things, and that's i.e. what happened down at Crescent View. And we really need to look and see where we came from so then we know where we're going to go. I know that's a cliche, but I think that's very important in this thing. And I echo the sentiment of my fellow council people as far as we just can't build things that don't make sense, because at the point, if we have, and this is anyway, this is a general statement, if we had 5,000 we're building 5,000 apartments at $2,500 a piece, throwing out the number, but there's only 3,000 potential buyers for it. We have 2,000 buildings that are empty, and it doesn't help anything. And we're again, developers need to make money, but we've got to look there. I think from a student standpoint, what happened in the early 80s, we need to look at moving forward to help with this situation.
Thank you, Councilman. And, you know, this is quite lengthy. You said it is on the website, city website, so anyone in the public can have access to it and go through it and make comments to us. There'll be public hearings. My final comment, and we're getting close to adjournment, is Councilman Lawson had a neighborhood meeting in Riverside, and I attended with you, and maybe about 35 people in the room, good sized room, and of course, affordable housing was one of the issues. So then I asked at the end of the meeting, let's say everyone in this room, including the councilman and myself, were selling our house. So we'd all like to say, gee, where's that nice young family we can give them a bargain and sell it to? Or we're going to get as much as we can get for the house. Who in here by a show of hands would sell it as cheap as possible or would get as much as you can get? And they all went, yeah, we get what we can get. It's an American dilemma, you know, and yeah, but you're not, you know, you're going to get what you can get, or whether you, but that doesn't mean it's not an answer. I also children involved, and we'll have grandchildren looking for houses and barely can afford a house I have. It's a problem. And there is some greed. Some of it is inborn. With that, next item, and thank you for the report.
Report of school committee liaison. Do we have anything for that?
Yes, I do. All right. So the Martin building is going along very well, and Council President can speak on that if he wants. So that project is the renovation of Martin Middle School, which is where we house our pre-K. Currently, they're at Oldham over in Riverside. And then we're keeping the gym and the auditorium. So that project's moving along. They did some work on, I guess, some drainage around the area. Waddington is also getting a little bit of a facelift on the addition and stuff. Let me see what else she told me. 1 second. I'm sorry.
Any update on the signage for?
No. Food truck. So they got a food truck. It's called the Townie Tailgate. It was part of a ride grant. Next Monday, 2/12, and on 2/3 is the building committee and the school committee on 2/13. But other than that, you know, we just want to say to the teachers dealing with the traffic, driving in from out of state, and the students having to sit on a bus, we hear you. And as far as what we can do, we're trying. We're limited in what we can do, but I just want all our fellow townies to know that we hear everything that's going on. We live here. We have coffee with you. So nobody is ignoring, despite what some may think. It's just, it's government. It's slow and sometimes it's so inefficient, but it's a process that we have to follow. So also Sydney Olsen kicked butt at the intramural hockey game, I was asked to say. And I believe they won. And that's it for the school committee.
Just have a follow-up question, Councilman. The food truck, is that for special events? Are they going to have it like, how are they operating it?
I'm going to assume the CTC, the kids in the culinary, is part of that, but I can definitely get more info.
And
Yeah,
it
like, are
is
they
kind
gonna-
of special
Absolutely.
events. It won't be like every day of the week or every week.
Maybe
They'll go to
games.
some sporting events. They're going to try to go to of the school, some community events. And it's a conglomeration of The auto tech class will keep the truck up and running. The arts graphic class has the graphics right on the truck
Yep.
itself. And of course, the culinary arts. So it hasn't started yet. It's ready.
You think about it, we are very innovative in our education system with that Voc school because not every kid's going to college. And the world needs mechanics. We need, what do we teach? Dental, EMT, whatever. And that's the kind of stuff that a kid can graduate high school. Before you could graduate, get a job in a good company and learn and get a middle class wage. Nowadays, a high school diploma, it's not preparing kids. So we're very fortunate with our high school. And you talk about people wanting to move in. That's a big reason why. That is a big reason. I'm very proud of our school department.
Thank you for the report. Is there anything else? Before we adjourn, whoever wants to make the motion, I think we should do it in the memory of longtime police officer Ralph Izovsky. I meant to do it earlier at the Pledge of Allegiance, but didn't think to mention it at the time. Ralph Izovsky, I believe he retired as detective lieutenant, and did a fantastic job for the city of East Providence. Also did a lot with the police union and has been a vital part of the community, passed away at a young age, and recently there was the service. So if we want to we can stay seated and just maybe bow our heads for a couple of seconds in memory of Detective Lieutenant Ralph Izovsky. Thank you all. May you rest in peace, Ralph. And now I'll entertain
Make a motion to adjourn.
Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilman Rigo. All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Meeting is adjourned.